It's podcast time, people. It's finally got cold. We got a little snow this week. It's actually winter. I'm feeling Christmassy. My studio/office space has been overrun by our Christmas preparations for the house, which is normal for us this time of year, and it's exciting, and it pleases me. So, almost an agreement at gmail.com. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, on YouTube. Go to our website, almostagree.com. While you're there, check out all the cool stuff we got going on. Halloween 25 is on schedule for April 12th. The website will be up and taking applications probably January 1, somewhere in that range. So if you're interested, you can get on there and sign up for our mailing list to get more information as it comes out. The year's coming to an end. We might do a year in review. I don't think we will, but we can talk about pretending like we might. Almost an agreement at your favorite podcast provider. Like, friend, share, follow. Tell everybody you can about us. Text it to your friend. Whatever you can do to help us grow the show, because we're going to keep doing it. We've got some exciting, breaking-ish, locally related to us and this show's history news. I think we'll start the show with that as soon as the intro gets out of the way. So our very good friend, Mr. Todd Frohmeyer, is one of 8 individuals who is running for state Democratic Party chair. To which I did message him a few questions on it. I did notice on the list that was published that it included Gloria Johnson and some other names that I was thinking to myself, is that normal to have a sitting elected, publicly elected individual, like in office, to also be the chair of the party? I feel like that's abnormal, but I don't know the answer to that. And so I asked, and eventually he'll get around to answering me. And then I asked him some questions on if he were to be chair, what were some of his top-level things. He hasn't answered yet. So, all right. But because he moved to Kentucky for a little while, and then he moved back to, he's somewhere in like near Middle Tennessee. Like he's on this side of Nashville, but over that direction now. Yeah. So, but yeah, Gloria's on the list too, and that's why I was like, that's kind of odd. I feel like that's...
Yeah, I was trying to think of what happened before. I know Liz Cheney didn't she used to be party chair? I don't know if she ever held any office while she was party chair as well. I know.
Yeah, I don't
Bryce Priebus, I think, used to be the national GOP chair.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't
think he held any office.
I don't pay particularly a lot of attention to it, normally speaking, and I will continue to not. I mean, I still talk to Matt Shears more than...
Curious if it happened. Don't you want to think about the possibility if it has happened?
You said... Okay. Yes, I don't know if it's happened or not, and especially on the national level, I would think that'd be even more problematic. But like, I could see the logic, or not the logic, but I could see it'd be like, I don't know, because like, what's the job? The job of the chair is to get more people to vote for your party in the demographic that you cover. So if it's the state chair, your goal is to get the state of Tennessee to vote for more Democrats. And if you're one of those Democrats they're voting for, I think that's a little bit inappropriate. Where if it's like you're the national chair but hold the local seat, or you are a state chair but hold the national... No, see, I don't like that either. I don't know. I'm sure it's in their bylaws somewhere.
I was wondering how you... I was just curious. You followed it up with, I really don't care, but then it's the same...
I mean, I find it curious, is I guess what I was saying. I don't really care, because I don't really care what the party's trying to do in general. It's just curiosity more than it is caring. You're right. That's poor wording. My bad. I'm interested just to see, like, if that's a norm or not. Right. I don't care in the sense that they can do whatever they want to do. I'm not a member of the party. I have no voting privileges with them, nor do I want to be part of the party. I guess that's what I mean. That's where I separate it.
Now, you pulled their primary. They think you're on their side at least to an
extent.
extent.
I have not pulled their primary.
Oh, I thought you did last time. Sorry.
No. Because I haven't had a Democratic primary that was worth voting in.
No, it's not a Republican primary. I thought you pulled a Republican primary this last primary.
Yeah, but...
Okay, that's what I was talking. That was the party I was talking about, that they already think you're on their side.
Yeah, but you're talking about, like, well, Liz Cheney and them, that you're referencing, are the federal party chairs.
Right, that's just because I don't know local and state chairs outside of our very local region, so I was trying to think of the two people I knew of that were party chairs at some point.
Yeah, and so apparently there's a whole bunch of turmoil in the Knox County Republican Party about something about reorganization, their annual meetings, and some sort of delegate voting snafu. There's some, I don't understand it. Randy's been bitching about it. But apparently Buddy Burkhart, I just don't understand it to be able to recite it, other than Buddy is trying to get basically reelected as party chair locally without doing with their local annual meeting, right, and trying to let the precinct delegates do an internal one by precinct, and then those roll uphill, and then he can just say whatever.
Because that was what you went to last year or year before?
This was a couple years ago, yeah. I went to the one when the little Mexican kid won. Fuck, I'm so bad with names.
I can picture
Herrera,
yeah.
Herrera. Might not be Mexican. That was racist. I apologize.
Yeah.
But
why did you make so many?
That was a anyway. So that's some whatever random local party news. But I don't know. I don't know what Todd's chances are. Like, the fact that he's on the short list at all is kind of impressive. I didn't realize he was that. I mean, I knew he was active locally in the party.
How many names run? I wonder if it's not that many people really go for it anyway.
I mean, that's the other question. That's the other question that I haven't asked yet, which is like, as the party chair in a state that is very not your party, like, what does that mean? Like, what is the value in it? Like, is it? Cause I mean, my follow-up questions kind of were like, hey man, congratulations on even being on the short list. Is it normal that sitting elected officials also run for party chair? What as chair would you say Tennessee Democrats' top priority should be? Mm-hmm. And then how do you as chair grow engagement? Because I would assume that's the primary focus of the job. But I don't know, especially as a minority party like that, like, I would assume that it's, you pick and choose where to spend state funds as far as, is this a seat we could win, or is this a seat that's kind of pointless? Like, we're not like Amanda Collins, I don't think got a lot of state party funding for her race against Zachary, because statistically she had no shot. It's not that she was a good or bad candidate. It's just that she's running in a seat that there's just not going to be a Democrat winning that seat.
Right.
So would that be something that the state party decides not to spend the money on in lieu of spending it somewhere else, like the District 18 race, which they did spend a good bit of money on, even though that turned out kind of exactly like it has in years past too. So I don't know. But anyway, shout out to Todd. He only listens to episodes when Matt Shears is on. That's what Matt said. So I'm going to text him and tell him we had Matt on this week, so he'll listen to us talk about him, at least for a little bit.
So let's take a little teaser.
Yeah. Matt Shears, everybody. Here he is.
We're open.
How's it going in North Carolina? You got the farm open yet? You growing weed?
Oh, we got lost connection.
Yep. Something's wrong with the phone. Sorry, guys.
That's really cool.
Yeah. I'm curious, especially the further he gets into it. Just because there is a connection there, it's easier to reach out to somebody to talk about stuff than to completely reach out to a stranger. I mean, he reached out to me to point it out to me. He's like, "Hey, have you seen who's running for state chair?" And I was like, "No." Clicked on the link he did, and I was like, "Oh, nice self-brag." I don't know if he thinks maybe I can vote. I could vote for that. I don't know. I don't know. Okay, so these are a couple big national stories. I think there's a couple of them that are quite interesting and impactful, and I can't imagine you haven't talked about it, and I bet your roommates talked to you about his opinions on it, which I'm sure are super interesting as well. Which one do you want to do? They're both New York. There's two different New York City cases. One was the finishing of an actual criminal case, and one is the beginning of a murder trial.
Your pick.
The Penny case. Do you know what the story is on the?
Yeah.
In case anybody hasn't heard the story, he's a former Marine on a subway, choked a bum to death, basically. Although he didn't kill him, he died before the EMS. Well, actually, he died while EMS was there. That's another little subset of the story that I thought was crazy. Anyway, so this guy's schizophrenic. He's yelling and threatening people on the train. Is that not true?
Yelling? No, he wasn't threatening.
He wasn't. Well, okay.
I thought I could be wrong. I'm sorry.
I don't know.
I'll let you finish.
Menacing. I don't know what the legal term is, but
I heard he was definitely making people uncomfortable, but I don't think there was any threats. I think some people, I guess, could possibly have felt threatened. I guess he was kind of acting out or possibly having an episode. I don't know. I think there was some kind of cell phone footage at some point of it, but I don't know what exactly was being yelled. Sorry, I shouldn't have.
No, you're fine, because that's most of my opinion on this is predicated on he was at least menacing, maybe a more accurate term. I hadn't heard any quotes as far as what this gentleman was said, but he was definitely being loud. And the word that I kept hearing was menacing, and maybe he wasn't saying "I'm going to hurt you" to other people on the train, but he was yelling at them with angry face and stuff like that. What he was saying was somewhat irrelevant to the feel of the situation for other people being there. And so this Marine guy, at least in his defense, is that he felt obliged to help protect the other passengers on this train from this guy, and puts him in a not very good rear naked choke, and he ends up dying like on the platform, I guess. Like that was part of the story that was kind of weird too. Like he was still alive when the paramedics showed up, but the paramedics wouldn't touch him for a while because they're afraid of he had HIV or something like that. Did you hear about that part of the story?
No.
It's a weird little nugget. Like apparently the paramedics kind of poked at him for a little bit before they actually started doing anything because they were afraid of catching something off him, essentially.
What?
Yeah.
That's why you wear PPEs.
I'm not saying
that doesn't make sense at all.
Okay, but that is part of the story that I had heard. I'll have to find that part of the story for you because I know you want to see it out of somebody else's mouth.
Yeah, I was just saying like that just doesn't make like sense as a medical professional. I wouldn't think that just sounds kind of odd. I don't know if that was shitty paramedics or
and so
where, like, it's one of the first things you do. Like even like cops before they do like a pat down, like they keep latex gloves on them and like put them on before they start reaching in your pockets.
You got anything in your pockets going to poke me? And so he got put on trial in the state of in New York criminal court for a manslaughter charge, which the jury ended up coming back with a not guilty.
Well, I think I read like a couple days ago, like they were deadlocked for a couple days. Then I think the prosecution came out, and I wonder how that works.
Changed
legally.
One of the,
yeah, they were basically like, well, okay, well, let's offer like a lesser charge and see if the jury could possibly come to a decision on a lesser charge.
Yeah,
they're like, okay, maybe not third-degree murder or whatever it originally was, but then involuntary manslaughter or something like that.
I mean, it's the real conversation. I mean, again, not having been a witness to the occasion and not knowing the exact thing that did happen and what the difference in menacing and threatening and just yelling, being crazy is, it brings up it brings up a very complicated set of social questions here about, was this Penny character wrong for interjecting himself in the situation? And it's tough. Like, it's a tough question. I mean, a dude died. I don't like seeing people die, regardless.
I think it's wrong to interject himself. I don't agree that was the best option.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I don't know what he was in the Marines and what he was trained for in the Marines.
Right. I mean, they definitely teach you hand-to-hand combat in basic.
But mostly what they teach you is how to shoot people, not how to choke them out. But they do some hand-to-hand combat stuff, for sure.
Definitely.
But whether or not...
get more of that than you... Well, I don't know.
I mean, I always one of the cliche phrases for Marines is you're a rifleman first, and then whatever your specialty is second.
Right.
So it doesn't matter, like if you're.
That's your MS, but I mean, you definitely are still taught.
You're a Marine. You're taught how to kill people, like full stop, in any number of possible ways.
Right.
Yeah, yes, I agree. I'm agreeing with you 100%. But I don't. Again, and how long he's been out, and if he has any like lingering injuries.
Relatively young.
And if he has any like lingering injuries from his time in, and so his physical capabilities of doing some of the hand-to-hand combat that he was trained may not be there. I mean, there's lots of factors in that. What?
It may not. It worked, didn't it?
Well, no. I mean, if you do a rear naked choke right, you should if you know what you're doing. Maybe that's part of the catch here too. Is if you know what you're doing, as far as like an MMA style thing, is you could choke them out till they pass out, and then you let go, and they don't die. Where at least as I understand the story, he just didn't let go. And so he didn't know, maybe he wasn't trained on that, because why would the Marines train on half killing people?
Right.
And so maybe that's the problem with his particular skill set, is that he was never trained to let go once they're asleep.
Maybe.
Whatever it was. Anyway, There's 1,000 different little subsets in there. But again, the larger social question being, even if you're not trained, I'm not saying you should be obliged to do something, but you shouldn't be punished for trying to help. And it gets weird. It gets weird fast, because then I understand it absolutely opens the door to true sociopaths who want to go out there and kill people, and they put themselves. That's the Rittenhouse story to me.
Right.
You go put yourself in the situation to be there so that you can do that thing.
Right.
Where it was it didn't have to have like this story with the Penny character seems like this was happening and this was his reaction in the heat of the moment. The Rittenhouse story is I went to go get in the shit, and that was my reaction once I was in the shit. Like that one's like a sociopath who wants to use this as an excuse to hurt somebody. The Penny story to me sounds like a guy who was trying to help protect other people and himself on this train, and it ended tragically.
Yeah.
And I don't think personally, I guess the long story short is I'm not wholly against the verdict of the Rittenhouse trial either, for that matter. But this one specifically, to find like if he did any jail time, I would have had a problem with that.
This guy?
Yeah, the Penny story. Yeah.
I would like to see some punishment. I don't know.
Because
it makes me. I was actually thinking about this earlier tonight, but and kind of the same thought. If New York City, if laws were changed or whatever, and you could constitutionally carry or whatever, would he have been authorized for use of force on that, or is that more of like a direct threat? I mean, before you're okay to fire upon someone. I mean, I don't. Again, essentially, this is a person using deadly force, having not under the threat,
right? Having not gone through all the witness testimony and or the specifics of the trial. I mean, I think regardless of the conversation, yes. If the consensus of the other people who are there, whom in his interpretation as he was protecting, that they felt like yes, it was appropriate for him to. Somebody needed to step in and stop this guy from hurting me or one of the people in the train with me, then I would say, yeah, that would be.
I mean, police wouldn't be able to do that.
I don't. Would they not? What would they do? They would allow this person to strike another person on a train.
They would go hands on, but they wouldn't be. I don't think they would be authorized to use a weapon on them. Stun gun, yes. But their actual service pistol, no.
I'm not okay.
Like unless I can be
on board
as far as like the police, like they have to have like a weapon in hand. Basically, you have to be under like immediate threat. Like a person running at you with a knife or whatever.
Sure,
it's the only time you can.
But I mean, the inverse of that is that
the police are able to shoot someone or
right. But they're also
lethal force.
They're also obliged to be the ones who are trained on how to and what to do in all manner of situations.
Right.
Which I don't think it'd be fair to insist that you have to be.
I'm talking legally,
right? But
legally, even someone that is legally authorized to use a gun to stop someone. Not to say
right, but
citizens can't. But.
But I guess my point is that as a citizen, I don't agree that you should have the same level of that you should be obliged to the same level of care as a police officer is. I think the police officer should have a higher standard because they should they should be equipped with a whole arsenal of tools, both de-escalation tactics, all those different things that are in play, as well as their stun gun or their baton or all the other things that they have on their vest that I hate that they wear, to defuse said situation as opposed to going all the way to that furthest end. Whereas an individual, you don't have to go through as many de-escalation techniques per se because that is not your job. That's not what you're there to do.
Well, even most police aren't trained much in de-escalation.
I mean, I agree that I think the Jocko breakdown of the general one of the biggest problems in policing we have in this nation is that we have a lot of people who are only like 10% trained to do what we're asking them to do.
It's true,
but that doesn't mean that the standard that I agree that I would argue that their standard should be higher than my standard situationally.
I agree with that to an extent, but I also don't think that the general public should have more free reign, I guess, to use deadly force than a police officer.
I mean, I think an investigation is appropriate when anybody is killed by anybody else, full stop, whether it's a cop or a regular citizen. But I think if the situation is deemed I think if the general witness sentiment, if you have 10 people on the train and they all say that guy was scary and he was making actions that seemed threatening and menacing and he looked like he was going to hurt somebody and that guy stepped in, I get it. I think that's a weird...
okay, I'll walk up to you and I'll start threatening you. At one point, can you put me in a chokehold? I haven't touched you. I'm merely just yelling at you and
maybe
even threatening you.
This is really funny because like, I think I recall I feel like last week we were arguing something. Well, it was about the kid walking to Georgia thing.
Yeah,
is that my argument for that one is something needs to happen before the state should be able to step in.
Right.
I don't know. That's a good, but I have gotten on the other side. On this
your libertarian thing is you have that right until all the way up until someone touches your nose or whatever the phrase is.
Right. Your freedom ends where my nose begins, or the inverse. My freedom ends where your nose begins, something like that.
Yeah. Because I mean, I've been around some uncomfortable people, and I know they were in a subway car, and I think you can go to other subway cars, but I mean,
it's a pretty small space.
Right. I mean, I'm not saying you should be forced to retreat or whatever, but I mean, I've been around like annoying people or people that have been like yelling. I'm like, I'm gotta pull myself away from this.
Sure, okay. There's a couple different things at play here.
I'm not saying I wouldn't stand up. I mean,
no, I get it. I've been
in those situations, in a previous employment, but I mean, I probably would have just put him in a bear hug. I don't think I would have put him in a fucking chokehold, but that's just me. And that's just the way I was. And a little bit of de-escalation and therapeutic crisis intervention or whatever it was called. I think that was the form of training that was called TCI.
Ugh. It doesn't sound like fun. But I think I think...
No.
I mean, I think that's a factor of the conversation, though, here. It's like, what he thought he was trying to do and what he did in the moment aren't necessarily the same thing either.
Right.
I don't think... I think that's one of the things... I think again, that's where it seems to me from my very cursory understanding of what happened in the case and all that kind of stuff, it does not seem to me that he intended to kill this guy.
Right. I don't think he meant to either. I think he was just...
But, right, which gets into that involuntary...
I don't know if any statements have come out. I don't think there was... Well, little I've heard, I don't think there was much remorse on his end, but, I mean, that's all I want to, like... I've heard of, like, states have, like, weird legal things that, like, if you come out and, like, say that you're sorry, that automatically makes you liable.
It certainly implies that you are admitting some fault.
No, it legally makes you liable in certain states.
Well, I'm just saying, like, even if it doesn't make it legally so, it certainly strongly implies that you feel like you're at some sort of fault.
Yeah, I've heard of, like, hospitals that have, like, had been sued for, like, wrongfully death, and as much as they wanted to apologize to the family, they're like,
it's an admission,
yeah.
An apology is an admission of guilt,
right,
on some level. That's crazy.
So I don't know if he's made any statements of it. I did see that he's going to be in the box with Trump at some upcoming event, like a race or football game, maybe. Yeah. But he's going to be in the press box, which I also think is weird. Just kind of parade around a politically divisive story.
I think it's right. I think it's weird. I mean, I would take the chance to hang out with Trump if he asked me to. I'm not going to lie. But I do think it's weird that Trump is asking him to. Like, I do think it's just this weird, like, I'm cool because he did something cool. If you think he did something cool.
Right.
Like, look, see, I say he's a cool guy. You think he's a cool guy. That makes me a cool guy. It's like, no, that's not really how it works. But it certainly gets done a lot. I don't know. I think it's, like, I guess what concerns me is if there was any actual criminal penalty for this guy is,
I mean, that's what involuntary manslaughter is. It's like you didn't mean to.
Yeah, but I'm just still. But like, what does that do societally long term? If you are literally, like, if I'm that guy in the situation, and I won't say I have like some expertise in it, but I feel like I'm a person who could make a difference in this situation to protect other people. I'm going to choose to just walk and turn around and let somebody else get hurt. Because I don't want to lose time with my wife and kids.
Right.
I don't know that I like the idea of that being societally normal. So we just like, I mean,
that's why each individual court case is supposed to be kind of tried on an individual basis. I mean, you have recommended sentences. That's why there's a variation of it depending on the circumstances of the crime or what happened.
Right. And I'm saying, I think as far as I understand this one, I think an acquittal is the right answer as far as I can tell.
Right. I don't know.
I
don't agree. I mean, people go to jail for accidents all the time. There are things they didn't mean to do, but it's still like it. I'm pretty certain like the other man's family is going to sue him civilly. I mean, it generally happens any kind of like criminal case. There's usually a civil case that follows.
I'll be curious how the court.
It's a much lower standard.
Right, and I'll be curious how the court finds in that situation as it pans out.
Because I did see an interesting thing. It was actually I think it was a clip from like a CNN thing, but there was, she used to be an NPR correspondent, Audie Cornish, but I guess she has like some kind of CNN roundtable. Saw some clip of that got referenced where there was more conservative guy. I think he's a kind of conservative pundit on CNN was how I heard him like described. But they were talking about this case, and he kind of referred to him as she was calling the guy that died. Can't remember his name. A victim. He was like, I think it's great that you keep calling him like the victim in this. And she was like, I'm saying the victim is the person that died in this. Like, I'm not trying to make a political statement, but it's someone that is now gone. So that's what I'm calling the victim. I'm not saying he was like the victim in this or whatever.
So
but I think more people, it was kind of pushed the other side that this Daniel Penny person is the victim in this. It's kind of like had this whole like dichotomy of people kind of arguing both sides of it.
But I mean, I the first thing that comes to mind in that statement is, so like if I'm trying to think, like if we've had like a million of them over the years, and I'm blanking out on a specific, but like just one of these. Okay, so to as a semi transition into the next topic, but not completely. This guy that shot the CEO of the healthcare company in New York was found at a McDonald's. Had he been less passive when the cops showed up, and the cops shot him, would anybody describe him as the victim of that situation? Had he resisted arrest and ending up getting shot, would they call him a victim?
Yeah.
You think so?
Technically, yes.
I mean, with the social specifics of this case, that's maybe not the most fair example.
No, that's not even what I was trying to say that as now.
I'm just saying, like, but to call to again, it's murky, it's gray. I'm not trying to say this guy was the good guy or the bad guy. I'm just saying, if it was determined that this guy was the attacker, would you call the attacker the victim, even though he was killed by a?
I don't want to play this game.
Why? Okay.
You lost me in your scenario in this. I don't know what point you're trying to make in it.
You were talking about the person on CNN who was using the term.
I was trying to make a point that she wasn't trying to make a political statement whatsoever at all. That she was mainly framing the story as like she was calling the person that died.
Instead of saying the guy who died over and over again, she said victim.
In that one instance, yes. Like, I love how you're calling him the victim in this.
Okay.
When the other more conservative gentleman said that Daniel Penny was the victim in this. And she was like, I'm not trying to like wade in one way or the other. She's like, in the situation right now, we have one person that's dead. She was like, I think she even like, in my Christian ideals, she's like, I'm thinking about the mother that now doesn't have a son anymore.
Yeah. Okay. I mean,
it's more of the thought like any loss of life is a
sure, it's tragic. Yeah. I mean, I'm not excited this guy's dead by any stretch. I mean, which again, that goes into the next, to fully segue into the CEO story. I'm not excited that guy's dead, but this has been a very interesting week.
Yeah, it's been interesting, yeah.
On the general public's reaction to it.
Did you see, there was a bunch of people getting on, I'm sure some of it was bots or whatever, but there were a bunch of people getting on the McDonald's like Facebook or whatever account that were like putting in like pictures of rats and stuff, and just like getting on like Google reviews and like Yelp reviews and just giving them like 1 stars.
Apparently,
just like, rats.
Apparently, whatever this jacket hoodie thing that he was wearing at the time, that both what he was arrested in, but also some of the surveillance footage had him in.
They had a picture. I think it was at the bus station.
Yeah.
Where the only reason he took his mask down was supposedly to flirt with the desk attendant, and that was I think that was like the first like picture they ever had of like his face.
Right, but whatever the jacket he was wearing has been selling like crazy all week. Like people are out buying that jacket.
It's just like a navy hoodie. I don't even know what the fuck it is.
I mean,
somebody determined like what kind of jacket it is.
I mean,
this?
Maybe it was really really genius marketing by the company who makes that jacket and said, "Hey, he was wearing this one."
That Acme logo on there, you've got to have it.
Yeah,
sorry, I'm trying not to name drop any.
I don't know what the name of it is anyway. Like I feel like it was like Tim. It was not cheap. Oh, it was God. What was it? I don't know. It was one. It was not REI, but it was like an outdoors, like North Face style. It was Levi's. It was a Levi's something outdoor. Apparently, it's like a $200-something jacket.
I didn't know Levi's did outdoor apparel.
Yeah, like it's a some sort of Levi's work coat. Outdoors work something. I don't know.
That's crazy and sad.
Well, I mean, that's what I find like kind of fascinating. Like, it's like, I don't know. So take out what you've heard post, other than some guy assassinated a top CEO for one of the largest healthcare companies in the nation. What was your gut reaction before everything else?
It's terrible.
I mean,
somebody was gunned down on the streets of New York outside of a hotel.
I mean, this is maybe this makes me the terrible one here, is that like my gut reaction when like it first came out, and then there was the first little like spatterings of what's going on. I was like, it seems clear to me that this was one of two things, and only two things. This was either revenge for himself, something that the whoever, because we didn't know who the shooter was. He was still at large at this point. It's like either this guy killed this dude because he was directly impacted by what this dude was doing to him in the healthcare system, or it was political because it was more. I mean, I guess technically it all boils down to this was revenge at some level, whether it was for him personally or for people he knew. That he had such a grudge against the the healthcare industry at large that this was him just showing an example.
I mean, from the footage, that's pretty obvious.
Well, I mean,
it looked like a fucking hit.
It was a hit. I mean, it didn't look like it.
That's what I'm saying. Like the footage, I don't know. That was the first thing I saw when the story broke, was the footage. So I'm wondering like how you were kind of like wondering about what it was.
I'm just saying, like, I mean, there's not many like, I don't know. I'm trying to think of any previous assassinations or high profile murders or something like that my gut reaction was this was a political,
right?
You know, like I'm thinking, or I mean, if it was political, it's like an assassination of a foreign leader or something like that. But like other than those, it's like I don't.
It's definitely rare. You usually hear about high profile ones,
right? And so I don't know, like, but then all the fallout afterwards and all this different stuff, like the jacket going on sale. Like there's apparently in New York City right now, there's been like a huge, I guess it would technically be a vandalism ring going on where people are printing off their own wanted posters using other healthcare company CEO pictures.
Really?
Yeah. And so instead of doing wanted the shooter of the guy, it's wanted the other people that he should have shot, in their opinion, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think, I think the social reaction to it says something pretty fucking clear, is that this is not okay anymore. The way things are. The healthcare system and what's going on and how these insurance companies are screwing people is not okay anymore. It wasn't okay beforehand.
I was about to say, like, this has been going on a long time.
Maybe rephrase that. Is that it's so not okay that we are not upset that a person got murdered in the middle of Manhattan.
I think more and more people maybe are just that financially strapped to where that healthcare is even that much harder on them. Right,
but I'm just saying, like, this is they're celebrating it, but it doesn't actually help them. Like that's how bad things are.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like if somehow like this guy dying, all of a sudden your claim didn't get denied.
People like to celebrate. I don't want to call this a small victory, but in their minds, I think see it as a small victory.
I think you're 100% right on that.
But they know he's going to get filled by somebody else. I mean, it's
right. Bill Burr
it's like taking off. Like I heard a little bit of what he said.
Bill Burr's little, like, he's like apparently
it's like cutting off. They talk about it with like gangs or whatever, or a terrorist organization. Like, yeah, you killed the leader and you just cut the head off the snake. It's just going to regrow.
Right. Yeah, for sure. But like, yeah, Bill Burr's thing about how, like, he said, like, apparently a lot of these top healthcare companies have been taking down their profiles of their top CEOs and stuff like that off their website. And I think the quote from him was, "Frankly, I don't think it's a bad thing that these motherfuckers are scared right now."
Yeah, something along that lines.
And I think because that was his whole thing, is that like a lot of the media coverage of it's not really talking about this part of it. They're just literally like, it's literally like this guy got shot, and this is the guy who we think shot him, and he's been arrested in Pennsylvania, and now they're trying to extradite him to New York. And
no, it's kind of one of the things that you and I've talked about. And you talk about kind of like CEOs that I think of them more as kind of being beholden to their shareholders.
Right.
And I think you think this is obvious, but I kind of wish that maybe I'm just stupid in that with the general public, that we should think the CEO should be thinking about their customers as well, and not just their board of directors.
I think it's.
I think that's a lot of the disconnect that I think the general public has with like healthcare, especially with like the CEOs. They're just like, they don't give up about me. I mean, this guy got.
They don't. I don't think
I read that this guy didn't even have Mangione or whatever. Like, I don't think he even had like United Healthcare insurance. I could be wrong. That might have been a misquote.
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, that's the one thing on the assassination thing to me. It's like, it seems like if you're, I don't know, but apparently in his, he referenced in the manifesto that he had lists if they found his bag, that there's lists of other people And so it's possible that he had just a list of all the top healthcare company CEOs. And this is the first one he came across.
I mean, he went through the trouble of like etching like words onto like shell casings that he used.
Deny, deflect, defer, or something like that was one of them, which is apparently it's a book that was written a couple of years ago by a guy. It was like an expose book on how these insurance companies are denying claims to people. But the book's title was Deny, Deflect, Diffuse, or something like that, or Defer.
And what's kind of interesting in like the aftermath of it, like a lot of people took to social media and just started like, posting like the troubles that they had. Not necessarily, just like hate stuff, but like, this is what happened to me when I got denied and this is what I had going on or whatever.
Right.
I mean, there's some absolute horror stories out there.
Sure.
I've heard like a lot of people like recommend like if you have a claim gets denied, like automatically like reapply, because I guess it's a common thing of insurance just to like deny.
First, like, first round is automatic denial. They don't even read it; they just deny it.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. It's I don't know. To go back to your CEO question. Yes, that is their job, and because the board of directors and the shareholders create the mission of the company, and their CEO's job is to execute said mission. And if the mission of the company is to make them more money, full stop, then that's what they're supposed to do.
What company's mission isn't to make money?
But how you make money is part of the mission.
True.
And if you're if you were in a real competitive industry, it's you make more money by having more clients, or you make more money by having better results for your clients. There's 1,000 different ways that you can get to said end. But if that's the way you set your company up, and I mean, this guy in particular, apparently, like their denial rates jumped like 100%. They went from like 15, 16% average denials on claims to like 30 something under his tenure.
I thought I saw something today that like when he came in, like he was actually trying to like change some stuff. Maybe he was trying to change it for the worse, but in the cursory reading of it, I thought it sounded like he was actually coming in to kind of change things for the better.
Or maybe that particular insurance company was in the 30% denial range, where the industry average is like 16, 17%.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
There's a lot. It's big money.
Absolutely, it's big money, and I think it's one of those. I think we've joked about it from the beginning of this podcast of doing a healthcare episode and trying to break down where we think the failures are, and I think
it's complicated.
I think it is complicated, but I think insurance is the worst part of it. I think the complications that insurance add to the totality of the system are the number one reason why it's so bad.
I did see a story. I don't know who they interviewed, but they basically said that people see the hospitals less as to blame for high healthcare costs and see it more so on the insurance and the other provider. Insurance and the other player.
Medicare?
No. Not the hospital, not the insurer, but...
billing? Administration?
There's a third one I can't even think of. I'm totally blanked on it.
Yeah, I really want to know what it is now, because
Oh, pharmaceutical industry. Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah.
Big Pharma's got its own set of problems in it, and that does complicate the whole thing. But
sorry, there's one other big chunk of something that costs a lot of money.
Right. But I mean, I agree.
The general public, I thought it was kind of a good thing that people see less blame on like the hospitals, and that's one thing I've said before. I think a lot of times it's the insurance company. And
I think there's blame on the hospital side too, but I think. Because like you talk about the CEOs being problematic of these big companies or whatever, and it's like I agree with that 100. Like if that's your job and that's your goal, then go do your goal, whatever, blah blah blah. But I think, like I always put it this way, it's like in a transaction, no matter what the transaction is, who's the customer? And so if you're a business, who are you trying to satisfy? Who is your customer? And when it comes to hospitals. And again, I'm not saying this is the hospital's fault. This is just the reality of the system. When it comes to hospitals, me and you, the patient, are not the customer. The insurance company is the customer. And so they're the ones paying. They're the ones who write the check that comes to your billing department. And so if that's the customer, then the hospital's job is to serve them, not to serve me and you, the patient. And I agree. That's why that's me illustrating, agreeing with you. I think insurance companies are the biggest problem in our healthcare system. Full stop.
Yeah.
I think the hospitals have their own problems with it because hospitals trying to react to some of the big plays that the big insurance companies make about this procedure might cost you X to do, but we're only going to pay you Y kind of stuff because we have 10 million people in our network. I think hospitals have some fault in those kind of things where they do their pricing model really, really crazy so that they can get what they can out of the insurance companies and then get what they need out of you to make up the difference kind of stuff. I think some of that does definitely feed into it, but I still think that's an offshoot of the insurance's involvement.
It's definitely a weird game they play where the hospital will kind of raise the price because they know the insurance company isn't going to pay $32,000 or whatever for an MRI. They put in that claim, and that's what shows up on your billing statement. But you can see that your insurance company of that paid $20,000 or whatever.
Right.
And then essentially the hospital is supposed to just write off the rest. So right. A little bit of emergency room billing, I saw some of that but then the insurance company would just send a bill to, or the hospital would send a bill to the patient for that remainder. They're like, your insurance only paid this much.
Right.
Where they're supposed to have a weird agreement that they're like, yeah, we're not going to pay you that full $32,000 or whatever. You're supposed to just kind of eat the rest and kind of be happy with it.
Right.
As you get into weird business contracts between.
Right. And then what how much, this is one of my favorite Trump things that he did last time around is he tried to get that flat billing thing on the hospitals. So you come in for X costs this. Doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter what insurance you have. If you come in with a broken arm, it costs X. And that has to be it's an upfront billing. I think the joke was, I don't think it was out of his mouth, but he might have been out of Trump's mouth. It sounds like Trump would say. It's basically like walking into McDonald's, you look up at the board and that's how much you pay.
Right. There was something that was passed in this current administration called the Truth in Pricing bill.
Was that a Biden one? I know Trump did I thought Trump did one too. Anyway, either way, I like that idea. It doesn't make
that's totally different. That's not flat. This is just I think this requires hospitals to be open about their pricing. Where if you ask them, they have to tell you. They can't be like, oh, well, we'll see what happens when it's over with. We'll see what we bill you for.
We'll see how much insurance pays for, and then we'll tell you.
I think it's called Truth in.
Something, but I mean, it's just it seems a little bit of an issue to me in the, fair market kind of conversation when person A comes in and person B comes in and gets the same procedure with the same doctor and the same equipment and the same X, Y, and Z, but person A and their insurance pay X and person B pays X, times 2 or 3.
Right. Depends on your group and your different rates.
Right. You don't have silver, insurance at all. You pay whatever.
Platinum level insurance.
Well, because one of the weird ones for me is our GP, they have a thing where if you we have a zero copay on regular visits, and then it's a $25 copay on sick visit kind of stuff or whatever. If I didn't have insurance, it's $25 for a sick visit if I pay them directly for the service. If I go through my insurance company, it's $25 copay. And then my insurance pays some too. You get what I'm saying?
No, I'm sorry. I was trying to find that bill.
Gotcha. So if I go in, if I go in with a cold, or the flu, I go in with the flu and I get a flu test and they do that whole thing. It's a $25 copay from my insurance.
Right.
If I go in without insurance for the same thing, it's $25. That's the way they do their pricing model. Is they make it for uninsured the same price as a copay for a regular person. But when I get the bill, when I get the statement or whatever from my insurance company, it's it was a $170 visit. The insurance company paid $135. I paid the $25 as my copay.
Yeah.
And it's well, why don't I just not carry insurance and pay the same? That seems kind of weird.
Did you ask me? Is that's just a facility thing?
I mean, yeah, that's their policy on basic stuff. Now, when and that's the return argument. It's well, I carry the insurance so that when it is something more major,
right, when it's beyond,
I pay the copay plus some larger, co-insurance or whatever it is, but I'm only going to pay $10,000 total in the year out of pocket. Where if I was the other, I would actually owe $45,000 or whatever.
I mean, I'm not surprised. I mean, there's a lot of people that don't have health insurance and they end up having to go to the doctor or go to the ER for something. So, I mean, that's one way for a facility to actually start being able to work with them. It's okay, we don't have insurance. Let's figure out a way that, we can treat you and you can still pay us.
Right. Because we'll at least get something out of you.
Yeah, we'd rather get something than nothing out of you than wait, 6 months to get reimbursed by the state or the federal for
right,
but spend more than what we're going to collect from you in our internal collections and all the different stuff that we try to do to get money out of you before we turn it over to the other thing, and we end up losing money on the whole exchange anyway.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's a mess. It's a problem. It's a big problem. And I think to go back to the origin of the story is it's a big problem that it seems to me, at least in the social sphere, at least. And I get it. The internet has zero feelings when it comes down to it. But it is.
Why is he trying to report you?
It is painfully apparent how much general disdain for that industry there is when something like this happens, and indifference is the minimum, if not full-out celebration.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy how this kind of like vigilantism has kind of been praised by some.
Right.
And I think it's funny that some have been like, oh, all the left is doing this. It's both sides of the aisle that hate the fucking industry.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just that the industry has so much money and power to the people who got elected to be there that they're never going to change it.
Like, maybe we should think about this, guys. They're trying hard.
Right. I don't care how
I saw some clip of Lex Shapiro going off on it. It's like, we have the greatest healthcare system in the world, blah, 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 blah. I really don't like the guy.
I used to listen to him pretty regularly, and I got tired.
I've seen him do like some interviews with a couple people. He's great in the interview format, but I mean, his like straight show, like, can't take it.
I just couldn't, like, once there was some other stuff, like the Ukraine stuff was a little bit of where, like, I started falling apart with the Ukraine stuff as soon as the last October 7th thing happened or whatever, and he went full Jew, and I was like, I can't. This isn't about the Jew thing for me. I don't care that you're a Jew. I understand, and I respect the fact that this is more personal to you because of your heritage than it is to me because I'm not the same thing or whatever. But are you an American or are you an Israeli? You can care about the other, but especially if you're going to be a political pundit like he is hardcore about politics and stuff as he is, you've got to pick which people you're advocating government for.
Yeah.
And if you're advocating for a foreign power, then I don't care what you have to say about anything.
I want to say I saw some little clip. I didn't watch the full thing or anything, but they were saying that some of his audience didn't care for his take on this CEO shooting. They thought that he was out of touch.
Was he outraged?
No, he was basically saying the American healthcare industry is the greatest ever, blah, blah, blah.
Right, so he was outraged at the murder, not at the... Right, so he was saying, this is crazy. You killed a guy because he's doing a great job.
No, I think he was more like outraged at the people that are I think rightfully shitting on the insurance industry or the healthcare industry. Then he's just like, great America has the greatest healthcare industry ever. It's like, we have subsidized healthcare and blah, 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 blah.
I mean, I would argue that at some level there are things that the U.S. healthcare system, because of how weird and crazy and expensive it is, creates things that couldn't be created otherwise because of the profit motive for the people creating the things. Whether it's medicines or...
Okay, I was like, what are you talking about?
Whether it's medicines or protocols to deal with a certain disease or whatever it is, that because there's so much profit involved, it makes it worthwhile for you and your research team to go chase this thing down. Now, the inverse of that...
We're doing really good in R&D as far as like pharmaceutical production, like...
Right.
That's not going on.
Right. And the true inverse of that is that money's there because it's subsidized tax money that goes into research departments of pharmaceuticals and others that then go get to profit,
etc. Yeah.
That then go to get to profit on the other side, which makes zero sense to me.
They don't profit that much. I don't know why you're stuck on this, but sorry.
So, who developed mRNA?
I don't know. Somebody a long time ago.
Okay, so this mRNA vaccine technology that we use for the COVID vaccine, right?
Right.
Was I used to know the little more of the specifics, but it was developed at a state university at a state university over a couple of different decades with a couple of different people and all this stuff with U.S. tax grant money, and then Pfizer and whoever else got the patent to create stuff with it. And then who got, when the U.S. government is saying make 10 gajillion vaccines and send them out, Pfizer wasn't like, okay. They said, okay, here's how much it cost. And then the U.S. government wrote them a check. Not that they shouldn't write a check for something, but when half the argument from pharmaceutical is some of these drugs are so expensive, and us holding those patents for a certain number of years so that a generic can't be made as a way for us to recoup our costs, when the majority of those medicines were created on grant funding, or at least the major portions of them are created on grant funding, I have a problem with.
That the grant fully funded all of that research. Or the grant went towards and was like 25% of funding for that.
I mean, depending on the numbers, I don't know.
Numbers matter in this, because you're making it sound like that the whole MRA thing was just fully funded by the government, but then somebody else is making money off of it. And on a totally different side of it, I mean, I think you should be for like copyright. And
yes, the U.S. government should hold the copyright if they paid for it.
Okay. So if you take any kind of federal funding, you shouldn't be able to benefit off of it?
I mean, I think there's.
I take a federal grant and I patent something. I can't benefit off that. No, patent.
I think there's. I've
now got to kick it all up.
There's middle ground to that, but I think so it's.
I took a loan from a bank to start a business. Do I now own the bank extra money because they helped me start this?
Yes, you pay the loan back with interest. Yes, you absolutely
pay the loan back
with interest because you pay more than you got. Yes.
Right. Okay. So it's more of like the people should then benefit them, or you think they're overly benefiting?
Okay, so
if the government gets nothing.
I mean,
off
I'll take that as the minimum that whichever entity issued the grant gets the totality of the grant given with market rate interest for the time period before they got paid back, before the company gets to make money off of it after the fact. Sure, I'll take that as a starting point.
I'm assuming the U.S. government gets something for it. I mean, on a general kind of obscure note, like they get to keep healthcare costs down.
Like the whole topic we're talking about right now is how obscure and ridiculous healthcare costs are.
No, I mean, sorry, not obscure, a kind of unquantifiable. I guess it would be hard to say how much money a new flu vaccine saved the government on. Like, I mean, the argument on Medicare would be cost, which is a big chunk of our
right. The economist argument would be there would be no reason for Pfizer to develop a new flu vaccine if the government wasn't giving them a grant or a subsidy to do it, because they don't see the value in why would I spend time and energy developing this thing? Because there's not enough profit on the other side. And so the government steps in, issues a grant or some sort of subsidy to encourage you to do said thing because the government sees it as a greater good for the community at large. Like, I could get that argument. But I don't know how much, like, I guess somebody could break it down, and I'm sure somebody has.
That's all I was trying to say.
I'm sure somebody has broken it down, but I'd be curious to say, so the argument would be, so then Pfizer would just stop doing flu vaccines year in and year out, even though they sell millions a year? If they didn't get the grant?
No.
Well, that's the argument for why Pfizer needs the grant. So stop giving them the grant.
So they apply for it. I mean,
well, then stop giving it out if they don't need it. Like if the argument for why the grant exists is to encourage you to do it, that means you wouldn't do it otherwise. It's the same thing with these pilot programs and some of the other stuff that we talk about locally. The point of putting these incentives in place is to get something that otherwise wouldn't be done at a market rate. Like, why would I build a house? Like, on the local version of it, why would somebody build a what they call workforce housing development anywhere in the city of Knoxville? Because that same piece of land, with about the same amount of money spent building it out, you could sell as at market rate luxury apartments and make a ton more money. Well, the government steps in and says, hey, we'll help with X, Y, or Z so that you can do this on the other end for us. So that incentive is to get a result for the public good. And so in the healthcare version of it is we have grants in place for research on this topic. If you want to apply for that grant because you're interested in it but you couldn't otherwise do it financially, then we'll issue you this grant. But why would we issue an incentive to somebody who could otherwise do what they want to do anyway? Especially if the thing that they're going to create out of it is something that would be created either by them or somebody else, regardless of a grant situation. Or why not give the grant to a third party who can develop it?
I don't know. I mean, as someone have told me, why turn down free money? I'm kind of wondering why you're pushing back against this so much.
Okay, let me clarify what I'm pushing back.
You can write a paper to get some money for it.
Okay, so I'm not pushing, but I'm not pushing against the pharmaceuticals on this one. I'm pushing on the government and the grant agencies who are handing these grants out. Why are you giving grants to companies who would do the thing anyway? The point of the grant or the point of the incentive is to get a thing done that wouldn't be otherwise done.
Why do you think they would not do it without the grant?
I don't know if they would.
You asked me that question. You've posed this as if they would not. And this is exactly why the
Then don't give them the grant and see what happens. If they don't make it, then it proves it's a proof of concept. Because I asked you, do you think Pfizer or no. Johnson & Johnson would make a flu vaccine if they didn't get a grant for the research for the new series?
Sorry.
You think they would still make it regardless of getting a grant on or not?
Yes.
So then why would we give them a grant? If I own 20 acres in downtown Knoxville and said, hey everybody, I'm going to build this low income housing development and I've got all the funding in place, I don't need anything, and then I go to the city and I'm like, hey, can I have this grant? Or can I have a pilot program on this? Well, you told us you don't need it. And the paperwork says you don't.
That's my argument for the Boyd. This whole Boyd Stadium thing. Why is he asking Why is he asking for money if he can build it himself?
All right, but and on the stadium.
And why is the city doing it then?
Sure, that's the question though that I'm asking is why is the city doing it if it's otherwise going to happen? Now I would make the argument for the Boyd and the baseball stadium thing is that it wouldn't happen without it. Here or there, we don't have to argue relitigate that one. But if your theory is that Pfizer would still make a flu vaccine even without a grant, then why are we giving him the grant? And I say that's the question. Why are we giving him the grant? Me and you and our tax dollars. That's the question I'm asking. Not why. If I'm Pfizer, absolutely. If they're giving grants out and it's something that makes sense on paper to me, I'm going to apply for the grant. Sure. Even if I plan on doing anything anyway. If I'm Boyd and I want to build this thing and I could afford it, but I could get a tax break or I could get somebody else to pay for it for me and it's a semi-norm among the community, why wouldn't I ask for it? I don't blame I hate Big Pharma, don't get me wrong, but I'm not blaming their actions for requesting it.
I'm just saying, if you're going to blame the government in this, then blame our local government for doing the same fucking thing.
Sure. I don't remember what my last stance on the baseball project was. Was I pro funding for it?
Yeah. From my understanding of it.
Okay.
That this was going to build up commercial space and everything around it, bring in tax dollars.
I mean, the argument for... Well, yeah, I agree. That is kind of my stance because I think Boyd was going to do it. My gut with no proof whatsoever was Boyd would have done it anyway if he got the money or not.
I think he wanted to do it. Like, apparently, he said it a long time ago that he wanted to move. He wanted to move them back to Knoxville at some point.
As soon as his dad died, I thought.
I don't know. I've heard that he had said it. I want to say he may have said it not too long after moving it up to Sevierville. That like eventually we want to come back to Knoxville.
My recollection was his dad was still president of the company at the time when they moved up to Sevierville.
Yeah, I don't know very little.
Or maybe he bought the Smokies. I think he bought the Smokies shortly after they moved up there. Maybe that's what it was.
Yeah, I don't know.
Anyway, apples and oranges. I don't think this is the same argument. I get what you're coming from, and we can relitigate the other one if you want to.
No, I mean they're definitely not.
But I agree with you. And I guess so apples to apples, whatever we'll call it the same. It's close enough.
They're not. I mean they're not far apart.
Right,
they're closer together than they are far apart. I guess.
But I'll agree with you in that. But I could see the argument of the overall net positive to the city of Knoxville for guaranteeing that it happens, opposed to hoping that he does what we think he's going to do. And I guess you could make that argument for Pfizer and the flu vaccine too.
I mean, I think the story's yet to be written on this baseball thing.
Look,
so you're talking about like tax revenue coming in. We talked about it last week, looking like 13 years before we start seeing.
Well, that's not that one particular property. That went through, by the way. That pilot on the laundry place is set. And so this new architect is going to build they're going to keep the front of the building. It's historical, whatever, but they're going to build whatever they build and pay zero taxes for about 13 years.
Jesus.
Property tax. What I'm curious about.
What taxes do you pay? I mean, I guess you pay your business tax if there's an established business there,
right? And they'll pay all their different company taxes and
just no property tax,
right? And for them specifically, they probably don't pay sales tax. They probably don't collect sales tax for their services anyway because it's an architecture firm. I don't think an architecture firm is required to collect sales tax.
I've thought about that. I mean, they're still providing a service. Why would there be no sales tax?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't know that. I don't know that.
You were saying I'm guessing they don't pay sales tax.
There's a lot of it. There's a lot of industries that because I would assume that the majority of their clients are professional.
So.
Okay, well, if I go in and
there's a lot of businesses that most of their clientele are professionals.
Well, you don't if you don't charge sales tax on something that another company is using that they charge sales tax for.
Give me something that equates to that I might.
Okay, if I went to this if I was a contractor and I went to these guys to draw up a house that I'm going to build, right? I would pay them for their services. I wouldn't pay sales tax for those services because that cost is going to get wrapped up into the cost of the house that does have sales tax on the other side. Anything that the end user pays sales tax on, the middle people don't pay sales tax across. It's more directed in
I guess with an architecture firm, I think of it more as like, I come to them and say, hey, I want a 2,000 square foot building with 20 bathrooms and 8 showers or whatever.
Right. And if I'm
make a building. I don't think it matters how much the company that builds it ends up selling it to that, end of the line user. I don't think that really means as much to the architecture firm. They're like, hey, you asked me to draw a picture for you and come up with the plans. Like, that's what I want you to pay me for.
Right. And that's what they get paid for. But the cost of that gets rolled into the cost of the final good. Like anything. So like a more concrete example with physical goods is
I could see that with like an in-house architecture. Well, no.
Like Smith & Wesson in Maryville, their new factory in Maryville, right?
Right. Headquarters. Is there a factory there too?
I think they have a facility there. Okay.
I thought they just moved the headquarters.
All right. Well, let's change the one we know there. Let's go to Denso. Sorry. Denso's easier anyway. Denso's fine.
I poked a hole in it. My bad.
It's good. I don't know. No, I thought it was a factory. You think it's a
no, they put a bin over there. I know they at least moved the headquarters, but it would surprise me. Sorry.
Denso, where we know they are building things.
Right.
Right. So they're a Nissan component. Mostly Nissan components is what they build, right?
I know car parts. I don't know about it. I didn't know if they were manufacturer specific.
So, like, I know one of the things that they do build here in Maryville is alternators for I believe it's the Nissan Sentra from like 2007 to 15 or something like that. So you take an alternator for a Nissan, and let's say it's a new part that's getting shipped to wherever they're assembling said Nissan is. And so let me build a hypothetical that's a little more direct and it stays inside the state. They build an alternator that goes down to Chattanooga to go into a Volkswagen, right? So when Denso sells a truck full of alternators to Volkswagen does not pay sales tax on the purchase of those alternators,
right?
Because those alternators will go into a finished product that a sales tax is applied to.
All right, but that's a good, I guess, and that's where I got kind of confused when
services can function in the same way because if I was building a house for myself and went to an architecture firm and asked them to draw this thing up, I think they would charge me sales tax for it because I am the end user. If I'm designing a house to be the resident of, if I'm saying I want to build this house for me and my family, I think that they would be obliged to charge sales tax for their services. Where if they're doing that for a contractor who's building that for sale on the other side, they don't have to charge sales tax for it. I believe is how that works.
So an architecture firm, I guess, just pays taxes on their business earnings.
I mean, they would pay tangible property tax, which would probably be significant, considering that's a corporate office. They're going to have a lot of furniture and computers and the different things that they use to do their work. I believe they still would owe tangible property tax. Like I have to pay property tax on my refrigerators, my registers, right. Which is fucked up. I shouldn't have to pay on my registers because I don't own those. I'm leasing them, but whatever. I still had to pay in like $20 a year for my register property tax. So they will pay that property tax to the city and the county, but they won't pay on the building / land for that period of time. But the argument would be that
when they have employees in said office, those employees will be working and getting paid. That will go into state employment taxes as well as federal employment taxes or federal income tax. That will go into those people are then spending their money, presumably locally because they live and work here. And then that would go into sales tax and or other facilities that are paying property tax, whether it's neighboring businesses like the Sweet Cool Pirate Tavern just up the street that they can come grab a beer at after work or something like that, whom pay into the sales tax as well as the property tax system.
Plug it.
Got to do it. Compass guys plugged me like 5 times a day. It was fun because they were talking about this, and they were talking about like the energy that the city of Knoxville has been putting to try to, quote, grow near North Knoxville, this being an example of it. And it's like, yeah, part of that is they did, and then I almost interrupted, but it was a sad. It was me being mad, so I just kept my mouth shut. Yeah. But like some of the stuff that was the city trying to, especially along the central corridor, trying to get it more on the up and up, has now fallen into disrepair. It is gross. Like a bunch of the planners and a bunch of the stuff that they did in the streetscape thing project. It was a big project. They just finished it like 5 years ago. And these planners, like half these planners are broken and falling apart and just filled with weeds instead of actual plants.
All right.
And so it's like, yeah, they tried and then they stopped. But I kept my mouth shut. I didn't interject with that one. But yeah, that thing's going through. It's official. It's happening. Probably the most interesting thing that's coming up is County Commission is meeting this week. Apparently it's basically a paperwork processing fee that the state applies to the purchase of a home. That has been in place for like ever. And like it made argumentative sense like 30 years ago, but now that like everything's automated computer style, it doesn't make any sense. So the county is asking for half of that. So when the state collects that fee for paperwork processing on the, like, it's basically when any property transaction in the state of Tennessee, property being land, includes this percentage fee of value, and it's a very small, like 37 cents per $100, I think is what it was. So 0.3%, 0.4% of the value of the property is a fee that the state assesses to handle all the paperwork of all the other taxes and other things that are involved in the transaction for a piece of property. When, you had clerks and both the local clerks and the state clerks that had to put all this paperwork together and like hard copy file it into filing cabinets and stuff like that. Right. Where now it's all digital and it takes 10 seconds and it's over
drag
with.
Drag and click.
Right. And so
it's still some work. It's a little less.
Right. But the county's argument is like, hey, you don't need all this anymore. You're not doing all that much actual labor on this particular thing. Can we have half that back? It's basically, there's 2 things coming up in county commission of attempts to raise county income without raising county taxes. There's this one, and then the other one, which is basically a new tax. It's basically when a developer comes in, and I'm not totally opposed to this, but I do think it's kind of wonky at the same time. It's kind of basically that when a developer comes in to build a thing, they'll do an impact study, and then what the county says needs to be built in response to the new development will be assessed per parcel in the development as a fee for the buyer, if that makes sense. So 100 houses go into a 30-acre plot or whatever, right? And the county figures out blah, 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 and they say $100 per plot is what it's going to cost us to widen the road out front and put in a new sewer line or whatever it is, all that kind of crap. But they'll figure that out on a per parcel basis, and the developer doesn't pay it, but when the developer goes to sell it, they're obliged to collect it from the buyer. Okay. And so it's a tax on the buyer of a new development property.
Interesting.
I mean, it could go the other way too. You could just be like, well, make the developer pay for it, but the developer's just going to roll it up in the price of the house anyway. So it's the same animal at some level. But inversely, it's like, well, if I live in a house, if I live, where is it out there? Out there in Farragut, behind the town hall, there's that one farm lot that's still there.
Right.
If I lived in the neighborhood next door to that, and that guy that owns that farm finally sells and some developer comes in and puts a 300 unit thing in that place, well, I shouldn't have to pay more property tax so that the roads can keep up with his development. They should have to pay for that. That's the argument of why a system like this would make sense. But it's still kind of ugly at the same time. It's like, it's everybody's road. We all pay for it. Not just the new guys. But at the same time, I'm kind of cool with it because that does kind of pencil in one of the things that is a deterrent from new people moving to town. Is when buying new houses, at least, is more expensive.
I'm trying to remember. I think it was a local story that like the National Association of Realtors voted Knoxville one of those top or like one of the top cities to move to. I mean, I thought it was like, oh, great. Just when like Knoxville's already having like a housing shortage, the National Association of Realtors decided to give us the praise and fuck us some more.
I mean,
it's a great area. I mean,
it is. It absolutely is. I think the question to me, and the question to me always is that we can't stop you from coming.
Right.
Not directly. We can't ban Californians from moving to Knox County. Like that is. I believe that would be a breach of the Constitution of the United States. We can't refuse to let you enter our state if you are a U.S. citizen and resident of another state in the Union.
Right, but there's ways to make it hard to move to an area.
I don't know that, other than like this little thing that I was talking about here, like I don't think you could put an import tax in that says if you want to move to Tennessee, you have to pay an additional fee. Like there's an immigration tax in the state of Tennessee if you're immigrating from out of state.
Well, that was a couple of years ago. I saw like it was realtors that were doing it, but you know they were building these great big subdivisions, but were politically motivated in who they were allowing to move to the subdivision. So I mean, they have ways to kind of like discourage people from moving to different areas, or just making it really expensive. I mean, the housing industry, I think, has more issues than nobody really wants to focus on.
The problem is that any of the deterrents that I think are legal are bad for those of us that live here too.
Sure.
Like we make it less desirable by making it more expensive. We make it less desirable by letting the infrastructure get worse than it already is.
Well, then you've also got almost like kind of two sides of the argument as far as housing prices going up. Homeowners love that. Like I said, you love the price of your house going up. But just in that prospect of like, if I did need to sell it, or if I wanted to sell it, you know, I bought it for this much, I'm going to make that much more money. Yeah,
right, but I still have to go buy something else.
Exactly.
Or I would maybe, if I don't want to buy something else, I guess I'm cool. When I'm old, and I downsize and the kids move out, it might be cool.
All right, that was the weird kind of like catch-22 when the housing prices started going up. Is like, yeah, you could sell your house for a little bit more money, but you couldn't find a house anywhere else to actually kind of move into. So they had people that were kind of like stuck in the middle of it. They're like, well, I can't move out of my house to be able to sell it, just to be able.
I mean, that's
I
me.
don't have anywhere to move into. There were people that were like living in hotels and like renting houses and whatnot.
Right. I mean, that's exactly me minus
the rental market.
Like, I don't have a want to. I don't want to get out of this house per se. But like that's like as these values started getting crazy, I was like, holy shit, I could sell the house for this much?
Right.
For real? I could get out of here. And then I start looking around at like what I would want to move into if I was to leave this place, and it's like I can't afford that.
I heard about I think it was a company that just got busted for it, but I didn't realize it was a thing. But I'm sure you've heard of like reverse mortgages, but this is like a weird thing to where like you kind of sell your house back to this company and then start leasing it, and it's almost like a lease to own. But then you technically don't own it anymore, or at that point, once you kind of just get into this contract of a lease to own. But it's basically, I guess, if you're upside down on your house or whatever, owe money, you can kind of like sell your house to this company that will in turn rent it to you. Yeah, kind of rent to own back to you, I guess, in hopes that you can eventually buy it back again.
No, their hope is that you fail.
Well, exactly.
And they take your house.
Right.
So
I was like, that is weird.
I mean, I don't know. That's an interesting solution to a problem if you're not being totally skeezy about it. Like if you're putting something legit in place.
Yeah, I think this one was a scam, but I mean, even just like the premise of it, I was like, that just sounds like a bad idea. Even reverse mortgages sound really. Even though Tom Selleck and his wonderful mustache endorses it, like
I'll tell you what,
still just sounds so crazy.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, like some of the like that is probably one of the most heartbreaking things to me about some of the change in the way in I don't understand like what happened
in famous people's willingness to hawk product. You know, like it used to be like if you were a big movie star, you didn't do TV shows. It used to be if you were like a big TV star, you didn't sell whatever. But God, what was it? It was Ice-T and I want to say it's not Mary J. Blige, but it was Ice-T and maybe Tiffany Haddish were selling car warranties.
I think I did see the one with Ice-T.
And like it's like that broke my heart. Like I was like, I mean, Ice-T's he's a human being. He's got apparently a very expensive wife. She likes the nicer things, and that's cool. And he's got to pay the bills and stuff like that. And if that's what it came to, that he needed to pay the bills or whatever, like, more power to him. But I mean, come on, like that is a scam. That has always been a scam. Those car warranty things, same as the home warranty.
I remember that commercial because even like the quote unquote, customer that you see the fine print at the bottom, was compensated for their time or whatever. I mean, but even though I was like, I was kind of skeptical, but then Ice-T, came out and I was like, all right, maybe I should give this another thought.
Like I don't know. Like I'm glad. Maybe we'll see. Maybe one day you guys will make us super famous, and I've got people coming to me trying to get me to sell stuff as ads on my podcast. And
I mean, some of those stars are just they don't necessarily need the money, but they're like, you're going to give me $15,000 for
20 minutes
for 20 seconds, and I can literally call this in. It's like, well, no, you can't really do it. Probably couldn't have done voiceover. That's not going to come over. Or, they won't come.
Yeah, I mean, that was
well.
him. That was him in
Flash, right?
in a transmission shop with whoever his co-star was. But it's just, I don't know. Like that hurt my feelings. Like that one specifically. But like the Tom Selleck one you're talking about.
I mean, back like the 50s and 60s, you had big stars that were spokespeople for liquors and cigarettes and anything they could sell.
Everybody was selling. Like, what was it?
I mean,
Camel's the doctor's choice.
Right.
I mean, right. That is always the game of advertising. But
they got to get more customers, and especially nowadays, if people love their influencers, if they can, get movie stars that still have some kind of draw for a certain amount of money, they think they can make more money off of what they're paying that star to sell a product.
When we're big and famous off the podcast, I will absolutely do cologne ads. I will do cologne ads, and I will do Mercury ads with what's his face, Mercury cars.
Mercury.
The Texas dude from Texas, Matthew McConaughey.
Oh, that's right. No, he said Lincoln.
Oh, sorry. Yeah,
I'll do Lincoln commercials.
I'll do Lincoln commercials, and I'll do cologne ads because they don't make any sense anyway.
You're referencing the Johnny Depp one where he's out in the desert playing a guitar.
Yeah, and then the coyotes the coyote pack forms around him. Yeah, I mean all fragrance ads are just fucking nuts. They don't make any sense. I've never seen one that made sense. I mean,
stars getting into tequila. I saw Dwayne Johnson on a tequila ad like yesterday.
I think it's his.
I think it's his tequila. And I had the thought, I wonder if he's trying to come across as Hispanic. Like, do people know he's Hawaiian?
Pretty sure. That whole Maui thing is kind of a big deal. Apparently, they're already doing a live-action one with him as Maui.
Huh?
They're already doing a live-action version.
What's Maui?
Maui?
Yeah.
It's a Disney... Oh, it's a good one. It's a good...
Moana, I've heard of.
Well, Maui's the character. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Moana's the movie. Maui's the character.
Okay.
My bad.
I was like, I've heard confusing. The place.
Yeah. Moana, and then Moana 2 just came out, but they're doing a live-action Moana.
Okay, I did
and
hear
he
about
is
that.
playing, like at least like the other ones where they came around and did a live-action of some of the great cartoons. They waited a generation. Like, we've just in the last...
Sometimes you got to ride that wave, man. Like, waves are much shorter nowadays.
Yeah. I mean, Dwayne's riding a big one, and it's been riding for a while.
No, I mean, as far as movie waves.
Sure, but Dwayne's riding a big wave, and anything that he touches is still gold at this point.
It was more as a thought of, like, they used to... It was traditional to wait a generation to redo a movie.
Yeah. I don't know. I bet this is what I need to talk to my parents about at some point. Maybe get my dad on the podcast and be like... And see, like, because I know, like there hasn't been like a new story, like there has been obviously, but there's not been many like new big blockbuster movies that were new stories.
Talking about just Disney or
just in general?
Like, I mean, you can.
Moana was a new story, but
you can break a lot of movies down to like general story premises.
There's like 5 archetypes of the best of the movies and stuff like that. But I mean, like Ocean's 11 was huge and exciting, and then I learned a couple of years after it came out that was a remake from the 70s.
Yeah, I never watched the originals. But I think I knew of that at the time. I thought it was said that this was like a remake, or I didn't think they were too vague about that this was a reinvigoration of the movie.
Anyway, it does make me sad. Maybe this is just something that goes with growing old. That like people I kind of revered and respected in the fame community as being at least legit people, seeming legit people. Like Ice-T was like, he never made bones about the fact that he was the fuck the police guy, who then went on to make a long career as playing a police officer on TV. And
apparently he was working part-time for most of those seasons. Like, he wasn't on like every episode.
But he making jokes about, I got bills to pay. Like, he made jokes about how the pay's good.
Right.
And, it's like, and so that, but I don't know, like, just hawking fucking car warranties, that really hurt my feelings when I saw that ad. Like, It's just like, come on, man. Like, you don't care about anybody if you're going to sell that. Like, you were like, because I mean, when you're the spokesperson on a thing like that, you're trading your name for whatever the company's doing.
Right.
And you've got to know that that's a scam. Do you think Ice-T carries whatever car warranty?
It was like Car Shield.
So that when his Bentley's transmission goes down, he gets a discount on getting a transmission replacement? No.
He probably got a complimentary membership, but doesn't pay for it.
Right, but still probably doesn't even use it in that sense. I don't like that. Yeah, there's some of those just, it really hurts my feel. Like, it's just some of that, like, that's just such trash. And if we're going to have like a Consumer Protection Bureau, maybe they should go after those companies. Maybe they should go after the check and cash places.
They do. They just have to have it's just like with any crime, essentially you have to have like the evidence to be able to prosecute.
Oh, maybe, okay, they maybe don't go after the individual companies directly, but maybe spend a bunch of money that you would have spent on lawyers going after them and investigators trying to figure out the crime part of it, and do a bunch of PSAs on, hey, these are scams.
They do, but
don't use them.
You know how easy it is to pop up a new LLC for $300.
Right,
it's easy to shut down and pop up. And
then don't worry about the individuals that are doing the thing. Spend the time educating the public on what the type of company is.
Right. Well, we do it to an extent.
I mean,
it's not huge exposés, but I mean, a lot of these things are well known. That,
like, again, as you know, I'm not the type that says the government should do anything or should stop anything from existing. But if there was a way that they could that we could get these check cashing places to make them impossibly unprofitable,
right,
and get them off the streets, like, they're fucking terrible. They ruin already ruined lives.
Title loan places,
yeah, they need to be done.
I've probably said it on here like 10 times, like the whole like checking to cash thing. Like, it's hilarious. I'm like, that's your motto, but like, or no, Title Max. I got my title back with Title Max.
Right.
It's like, well, I should fucking hope so. Like, you gave it to them. Like, I hope you were able to get it back from them.
Yeah.
And how many people never get their title back from Title Max?
Right. You paid 50-60%. Like, I mean,
maybe that's what it was. Like, people were just surprised. Like, oh my God, I got my title back.
Right. I didn't think I was so desperate that I was willing to lose my car long term, but I had to get this thing paid now. And so I got lucky. And not only did I get whatever dealt with, but I also got,
I didn't think it was ever going to happen.
Paid off before.
I couldn't believe it. It was a miracle.
Before they seized my car.
I re-owned my car that I bought a long time ago.
Yeah. It's all. I mean, it's bad. Like, it is taking advantage of the weakest of people we already have.
It was like, I mean, there's a little bit of like a glass ceiling of the vast majority of people.
Sure,
well, majority, but a lot of people that are at that level. That
the worst.
We talked about it before. You can't even get a check, get a regular like checking account.
Right.
Those are the people that have to rely upon check cashing places.
Yeah,
that I don't even know what kind of interest rates they're charging. Or like,
yeah, I mean, we've had
cash advance places.
We've had issues. I've had a couple employees that we've had issues with because they've gone to some of these online banks that don't have physical locations, and it's a little complicated getting them set up for the direct deposit.
Yeah.
Now we've gotten it done for everybody, but like
it took
time. Right.
I'm not a fan of them.
It took time and energy, but like one of them was like Capital One banking, which I was like, okay, that's legit, and just a couple of. A little bit of research, and it found I found the page. It's like for employers, and it's like this whole thing, and it's like, here's the numbers that you need. Here's the generic numbers. You just need the official, the specific number for that person that they can provide you.
Yeah.
Send it to the company, and we load it in the machine, and then we write them the check, and the check just goes directly to that thing. which is one way around the whatever. But again, those are, I mean, that's a scam in and of itself too, though.
Because they're charging their little fees for...
Because they're charging me, the retailer, the fee to run your card for everything.
Right.
And that forces me to raise my prices to offset the... I don't know. We'll see. I'll tell you guys on air what we end up paying, what we paid in credit card fees for the year 2024, but it'll be a lot. It'll be, $20, $50,000, $60,000 ballpark.
Yeah.
I mean, I could employ one. I could employ two people for that. One person in a higher level position, but like two of our most basic employees for a year for what we're paying in credit card fees.
I don't know where they're at now, but the DOJ announced earlier this year that they were going after credit card fees.
Well, one of the things that happened a couple of years ago that I just don't want to be, and I'm not like, there are people that are starting to do it. A couple of years ago, it used to be you were not allowed to surcharge your customers for the credit card convenience fee.
Right. That's like some gas stations started doing it.
Right. So places are starting to do it, and it's starting to become more regular. And we've been discussing it again. We may institute it come beginning of the year. We may roll it in the beginning of this year.
Yeah.
Because frankly, 9 out of 10 people aren't going to notice.
As I'll say, on average, that's going to add like 2% or whatever to the price.
Right. It'll be 2 or 3% if you run a card.
Yeah.
But again, 9 out of 10 aren't going to notice, and then the one that does, we explain it to them.
Yeah.
I just don't want it to be I'm explaining it to everybody, and I don't want it to be that the one I do explain it to has never heard of it, and then I have to explain it the whole concept to them.
Like, even I don't use a credit card, I'm using like tapping on my phone, like digital pay. Does that still count?
Yeah.
Well,
I guess it's going to be you
still get using a card.
You still get your whatever % cash back and or airline miles or whatever it is you get with your credit card.
Sounds like a scam.
It is
cash back.
Well, it's a scam on the people that can't pay their fucking credit cards off on time. Like that, there's been research on that. There was Sagar did a monologue on it a little while back because he loves it because he uses it and he racks up miles and always pays his bills on time. But he broke it down. He's like, look, at the end of the day, because I am capable, because of my financial situation to do the things that I do, I am taking advantage of everybody else on this card that isn't. And it's not that I'm taking advantage of it. I'm just taking advantage of the system that's in place.
Right.
But everybody who doesn't pay their bills on time, everybody that gets late fees and interest and all that kind of stuff, they're the ones that are flying me all over the country.
I can get the airline miles for people that are using the credit card a lot and I guess have the need or want to fly a lot. That kind of makes sense. But the whole general 3% cash back.
Well, I mean, I've never seen anybody
I don't think that offsets the fees that you're paying. I guess it's good to get a little of something, but it just it makes you feel good.
I've never seen
3% cash back on every time I use my card. It's like, well, how much shit are you buying to try to get?
Well, no, I mean, at the end of the day, whatever % cash back you're getting is going to be less than what they're charging for you to run it.
Right.
So
that's what I was saying.
Right. If they're giving you 3%, they're charging 4%.
Right.
And they're keeping that 1% difference. But
it sounds good when you're like, you get 3% cash back.
And if you make a late payment or you get a little bit behind, you don't get any of that back, and they get all 4 or 5%.
Yeah.
And that's the game.
Surprise.
Yeah. And so
Did you not read the fine print? 200 pages.
Yeah. Again, if we were going to have a Consumer Protection Bureau, I think one of the things they should do is that when anybody has the terms and agreements and whatever, they should be obliged to have a link as in that terms, full terms and service, right? 37 pages or whatever. But in the first line, they need to have a link to the Consumer Protection Bureau, where somebody at the Consumer Protection Bureau reads that and breaks it down into less than a page of cliff notes of what you're signing up for. A layperson's version of what you just agreed to.
That would be quite the endeavor.
Yeah, but I think that would be a more useful endeavor than trying to go after people scamming in the terms. No, it wouldn't.
So you're advocating preemptive? That's going to be expensive to try to like.
No, it wouldn't. It would
have someone at the bureau break down every single fucking crazy terms of service and break it down into non-legalese.
Yeah, it would be
because then they would be liable for that document as well, because they could be sued for misrepresenting a legal document that is the terms of service. That could be a dangerous and.
I mean, if the point of a Consumer Protection Bureau is to protect the consumer from some scammy shit, we all joke all the time about how much scammy shit they put in the terms of service.
Well, it's scammy, but they have lawyers read that shit out to where it's damn near ironclad. So, I mean,
yeah,
I hate to say there's not much we can really do about it, but
I'm just saying, like, give me the Consumer Protection Bureau, breaking it down for me so that I can understand what I'm agreeing to, because I'm not a lawyer. Like, you shouldn't have to have a lawyer to exist. If we're going to have a government that is to protect me from evil businesses doing evil shit, then put something. Then give me a reference.
I agree with you on the idea. It would be great if somebody was able to do that, but companies aren't going to like it.
Of course not.
The big companies that are able to pay lawyers are never going to let that happen.
Well, why wouldn't But we're not trying to please the companies in this, are we? Are we supposed to be? Do we care if they're unhappy about it?
We aren't, but the lawmakers that are running and in office want to remain in office. And they don't like losing money or losing the next race they run for.
I mean, I agree with, sure. Is that because the system sucks, we should just say okay?
No, I'm not saying that.
I'm trying to put some practical solutions in place.
Right, I wasn't trying to poke a hole in it. I was just trying to think of it logically.
It ain't going to happen.
It would be really... No, I mean, as far as trying to implement it,
it'd be impossible.
It would seem really hard to have someone break all that down.
It would be impossible or ungodly expensive, because you would have to have...
I was about to say it'd be really expensive, too.
You would... I don't know. I mean, I'm curious how many people the Consumer Protection Bureau employs.
Now, you make it like a pay for information. That could be interesting. Like $5, and, we'll give you the breakdown.
No, I already paid $5. I already paid my taxes.
Right. I'll say, but they're pretty much self-funded when I was reading last week, as far as my understanding of it. To where if you want them to do like this extra service, they may have to start like pulling out of the federal funds, or they can continue to self-sustain off of
but if I could
the fines they levy upon companies.
If I could stay solvent as an individual, I'm going to pay more taxes over time.
Right. It was just a weird thought of something that would be really expensive to make a little bit of money. Because I'd be willing to pay like $5 to have a fucking breakdown of my.
I'd pay
terms of service.
I'd pay an annual service for it. Like, give me like $20 a year, and I can, because I could submit terms to the office, because 9 out of 10 of them they're already going to have done anyway.
I don't know if they've implemented it yet, but I want to say Congress or Biden put out a bill that kind of made it a lot easier for people opting out of like things that you can. Where generally it was like you automatically got opted into a lot of shit.
Yeah, I think one of the ones
it was you had to jump through hoops to actually like unsubscribe or get out of something.
Right. I mean, I think one of the craziest things that's happened to consumer whatever over time is everything being subscription based.
Right.
Like, I have a Microsoft subscription for Microsoft Office.
Yeah, you don't get a disc anymore; you get a code.
I haven't used a new function, and I'm an Excel junkie. I love my Excel. Like, I am hooked. I would pay that, and I would go rob. I would rob from my mom to get my fix of Excel, because I love my Excel. But I haven't
coming.
Huh?
Knew the butt was coming.
Right. I haven't used a new function, so why am I still paying for something that's the same as it was yesterday?
Right.
Like,
you're paying for that great service that is Excel. If you know how to use it, it's a great thing.
I'm paying for the right to keep using it, which doesn't make any sense to me. And that's something that's very specific to the software side of things, that I could see the argument for and against it, but I don't know. Like, I could go back to like Excel 98 and be perfectly fine. Functionally, I could do everything I need to do in Excel.
Yeah.
And that was back when you bought it and you owned it. And it didn't matter what happened in the rest of the world around you. You had Excel. Like, the only new function probably of the last 10 years in Excel is I use the whatever Microsoft Cloud is, because it's on certain documents, so that I can seamlessly go from a computer I have at work to my computer at home to my laptop, and everything's always in the same place.
Right.
But that's about it in the new in the new age stuff. And I guess I could get behind the idea of paying a subscription for that cloud service.
because that is a continually costing thing to them because they have to have a server farm somewhere that they have to pay electricity bills to.
Right. We come from a time where when you bought it, you got to own it.
Yeah.
I'm with you on the idea.
I mean, that's one of the things that, like, that
was one reason why I stopped buying the subscriptions. I'm like, I'm probably not going to need to like type up a document or use anything. Like, I'm not going to buy that 1 year subscription.
If you're doing most basic stuff from Office, if you're doing most basic stuff, you can do it in Google,
right,
for free.
Right.
You got to give them your data. You got to give them all sorts of data, but you can do it for free in your Gmail account.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, I am old man and shit. Like I've had the get off my lawn moments over and over again as of late.
But I saw it pointed out. Like I like to play video games, but you play a digital video game. If that game company or whatever just wants to stop like doing updates or just stop providing that game anymore, like your SOL.
Yeah.
You paid $60 for that game that now you can't even play anymore.
I know. Like I tried to push for a little while for the kids' Switch is to get the actual cards.
Right.
And just lazy.
Well, then when you try to look like resell, like if you buy a digital copy, you got no way to resell it anymore.
Right. Like we've got like a dozen, and like we could go to McKay's and get like a couple bucks each for them.
Right.
It's more than zero.
Yeah.
It ain't much, and it's somewhat insulting the number that they offer, but it's more than zero.
They know you're hard up. I mean, it's like a fucking pawn shop.
Well, I mean,
they're going to give you low dollar because they know like you're going to take this somewhere else, or you want something.
But it's more than zero, and the digital copy gives me nothing.
Right. I can give you this code that I promise is still active.
All right.
What else you got?
I think that was it. I was going to go back to the housing thing, but I think that's it. I got smart, and I went before it snowed this week. I remembered that it snowed last year.
Where all got snow? My roommate.
We got some good snow here.
Where?
Here. Also? Yeah.
When?
It was Tuesday morning, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
We didn't get nothing in Oakridge.
Yeah, we were like it was weird because it rained all night Monday night, and like I told the little one, and apparently you put a spoon under the bed and flush ice down the toilet before you go to bed, and that guarantees more snow in the morning.
I've heard of people putting something in the freezer like the day before. Somewhere like put a sock in the freezer. Right. That's how you get out.
He puts a spoon under his pillow and he flushes ice cubes down the toilet before he goes to bed if he wants snow overnight.
Yeah.
Which I don't know that he did either on Monday night. But Tuesday morning we get up and it's raining. And I was like, oh man, I'm sorry. They did say it was supposed to start snowing a little bit like early morning. But like we were talking about it, it's like it's supposed to rain all night. It's not going to stick if it does come down, blah, blah, blah. And so while we were driving to school at 8 o'clock, I could see. You can't see the snow coming down, but you could see it. You know how a snowflake hits your windshield?
Yeah.
And it has that kind of splattering pattern instead of like a normal water droplet. I was like, hey, man, it's snowing. He's like, no, it's not. And I was like, look at the windshield. You see how different it looks? He's like, oh, yeah. And like in the 10-minute drive to school, like it went from rain but snow to like you could see the snowflakes falling. And I dropped him off, and then I drove up to the Powell store. And by the time I got to the Powell store, there was a little bit starting to stick in the grassy areas and stuff like that. Huh. And you could definitely see it up on Sharps Ridge where it was pretty heavy up there. And like it was going pretty good for a little bit. It all melted off. Anyway, before that I remembered, and so I have salt and snow shovels, updated first aid kits, and updated crash kits for all locations.
Nice.
Because it's just one of those that, like, that's one of those things that I always think about too late.
Exactly, when everything's gone.
And I thought about it preemptively this time, and it was really annoying because I had to pound heads to get people to tell me, like, hey, what do you have? What are you missing? Here's my list. Do you have these things? I want to know by tomorrow. Do you have these things? I don't know. I haven't looked. I need to know. Like I had to, like, because it's not important to you, and I get it. Like,
it's like, oh, we got it packed away.
Like, I don't know. I think we have some. It's like, I don't want to think. I want eyes on it. I want you to know where it is. I want you to tell me that you saw that we have X. And so when it snows and the city of Knoxville doesn't come out to do this, they don't do the sidewalks at all in the city.
Correct.
And so last year when we had that big snow, there was 4 inches of snow on top of an inch of ice on all the sidewalks for 2 weeks. We didn't have any salt for most of that 2 weeks. And so our sidewalk to get in and out of our front door
was inaccessible. And so after that all happened, we went and bought like 3 bags, and now we still have 2 bags there.
I think we had like half a bag at North Shore.
Yeah, I think we still do, but they couldn't find it, so I bought another bag.
Yeah, it was randomly sitting under one of the shelves for the longest time because we only needed for like a couple days, like the year before that or whatever.
Right, and that one little stretch that we do. But like that's what's crazy is that landlord sucks, but he still came out and did that.
Yeah.
But the city of Knoxville, the Central is top of the list. It's one of the priority causeways or whatever they call it. So Central gets work from the city trucks. Mm-hmm. Like it's like Gay Street, Broadway, Main Street, Cumberland, whatever you want to call it, like all those big access roads. Central is like second on the list. Like there's other roads that get done automatically before it, but also we have Knox County's roads facilities right next door to Happy Holler.
I was about to say, yeah, some of it's just what you're considered like, they have like. Learned about it. I worked at a treatment facility that was down close to a hospital, and they call it like a level 1, level 2, and like level 3, which is kind of what they prioritize. Whenever streets are bad, they do those levels first. So if there's any emergency services can still get out and about. Right.
And I was something I'd learned too is, and I don't remember the terms and phrases or whatever, but like yes, hospitals are one of those. They have priority access. They want to make sure that people can get in, people and or emergency vehicles can get in and out of. Holston Gas is actually like a third priority facility because so many people countywide, you have Holston for heating.
Right. Kind of like a propane tank or something. They have to come out and get refilled.
Right. And so getting Holston to have access to get out and get their trucks out and get to people's homes to install or to fill up their propane tanks or replace propane tanks or whatever.
Yeah, it makes sense.
It's not top priority, but it's one of the higher priorities in cold weather events or whatever. And so that makes the holler more accessible. So when the weather hits and you want to get out and party.
Yeah, I was thinking about where I'm at. It's actually kind of flat because I'm like, this might actually not be too bad if we get like an ice storm. Like I don't have too many hills to go up and around.
Yeah, and once you get like, man, from your place to the main road, because that main road will get done. That'll be a priority road.
Yeah.
And so just to get out of your neighborhood to that main road, that's pretty flat. Yeah, you should be good.
You may just have to like
all-wheel drive?
Slide into the main road.
All-wheel drive?
Yeah, not full-time all-wheel drive. It's front most of the time, but it can send up to 50% of the power distribution to the rear wheels if it detects slippage. But it's not like a Subaru where it's all-time all-wheel drive.
Nice.
I think it's a nicer version of it. You're relying on a computer to give you that four-wheel power, but at the same time, you're doing a little bit less kind of wear and tear.
Right, and you're not thinking about it. And when you hit a slippy spot and it takes over, that's not a bad thing to have. Where like for me, I have to stop, put it in park, change it to four-wheel.
Do you?
Yeah,
even four-wheel high.
I mean, I can have it in four-wheel high, and I can just go.
So maybe you have to stop to put it in a four-wheel. I thought you could do it while you're driving, or at least like below a certain speed.
I don't know. I haven't looked at it.
I know four-wheel low. I think you may have to like stop.
I haven't looked at the manual. I've always just assumed that I had to be honest. I just always do.
And when I had my 93 Ranger, like I had to get out and like lock the front hubs. There was actually like a little plastic thing. You did like a quarter turn to lock the front hubs to put it in four-wheel drive, or else you wouldn't have those front wheels going.
Yeah, no, I don't know.
That's what they call manually locking hubs.
I always stopped. I've always stopped to change it into four-wheel drive, regardless of which one I've done.
Right.
Because if I put it in four-wheel low, it beeps at me the whole time, no matter what I'm doing.
All right, it's probably like warning you, like you're doing 20. You should,
no, like I was doing like the only time I put it in four-wheel low since I got it, I had a trailer on. And we were at Camp Pillissippi. Have you ever been up there?
Never heard of it.
It's up by I don't know where. It's a Boy Scout camp, Cub Scout camp. It's up there on the river from Big Ridge.
Is there any more Buck Toms?
No, Buck Toms is way out in Roane County.
I was just wondering why you guys don't go to Buck. I mean, that's where I went when I was in Scouts.
We did for big things, but we did one like that was just a pack only event.
Okay.
It was just our group, all like 50 of us were there. But our one guy, our truck guy that always pulled the trailer everywhere, his eldest had aged out and his youngest hadn't started yet. And I was the only one of the parents that was super involved that had anything that could pull anything. and our trailer and the contents of it were on the top end of what my 4Runner could pull, which was fine on the interstate and stuff like that. We did okay. But when I got into the camp and the camp ranger's like, hey, man. It's like, yeah, we're with Pack 251. Where are we at? And he's like, you go around here, turn up there. I was like, okay, cool. And so, like, most of the camp road was fine, but I get around to where the camp is, and he's like, there's a little flat spot up there, which would be a good place to set the trailer. And I was like, well, how do I get there? And there was like a 25% gravel-ish, mostly like this is where the runoff comes down all the time kind of spot. And I was like, okay, put it in 4-wheel low, try to go. No, not happening. But it was screaming at me the whole time. The alarm was like, I don't know.
Saying anything?
As soon as I put it in 4-wheel low, it just started beeping like the door's ajar with keys in it kind of thing. And I think it's just hey, you're in 4-wheel low, don't go fast. I think is what my assumption was. And so I ended up just letting it come back down the hill, which was real fun because trailer, which means you have to turn the reverse direction to get the trailer to go the direction you want to go. Yeah. I had the wheels turned all the way to the left, and I was going straight backwards.
Is you sliding?
Yep. Yeah. Like,
I don't like pulling trailers.
As soon as I let the brake off, I would go straight backwards.
That's the only thing I would worry about with your truck, especially at that weight limit, is you're also doing a hell of a lot of stress on your brakes.
Yeah, it gave 0 fucks. So
yeah,
I ended up going up and putting it in a different spot and getting in there okay. And it was very stressful.
I wonder if you didn't have something turned on correctly for it to be beeping at you like that, or maybe it's common. I don't know.
Yeah,
I would have wondered the same thing. Like,
it's the only time I've
beeping
done
at me like this is a bad warning.
Right, and the kids are freaking out, which didn't help me either. And
well, I mean, driving the whole way there, I know some 4-wheel drive. Usually it'll give you like a warning where it basically says like the transmission or like the transfer case. It detects like you've been wearing it out, and then like the heat inside of it is getting excessive.
But I was in 2-wheel. I mean, I towed like the whole drive.
You were towing in 2-wheel.
In 2-wheel. Okay. I didn't turn it on. Again, I stopped at the bottom. I stopped at the entrance to camp because it was clearly gravel and it looked like it was going to be a little bit hilly. Right. I stopped there and turned it to regular 4-wheel, and then I stopped at the bottom of this little hill before I started to try to pull it up there.
That may have been what it was, because I've seen it on some people doing, when I was looking at like car reviews for like SUVs and stuff, there's one guy that has like a little kind of off-road course that he does, where he'll try to like climb some hills to see how good different cars like all-wheel drive systems are. And I think, even of him just, trying hills for like 10 or 15 minutes, that'll give him a warning, but usually like it'll pops up and it basically says like, you need to rest your car because it detects like transmission fluid, because basically, you've been stressing it out trying to climb up a 20% grade. So I wonder if that's what it was. It was detecting like, motherfucker, you're trying to pull.
Right. And I find out after the fact that part of that is that the trailer is all of the pack's contents. So half of the stuff that was in there wasn't even part of camp.
Oh, I'd have been mad.
I was not happy.
You guys about messed up my truck. You couldn't have left some stuff out of here.
Yeah, I was not a happy camper. Literally happy camper. How about do? That sounds like a good transition.
I just want to talk about one more thing.
Oh, do you got something?
Yeah.
Oh shit!
Well, I don't know a lot about it because it's
Hit
still
me.
like
I'm
conjecture.
sorry. If I could, if the button would let me play it.
You usually ask me. I don't have anything. I thought you might actually bring it up because I saw there was a clip of Breaking Points talking about it, but the story out of like New Jersey and I guess now
UFOs and stuff. Yeah.
I don't know if you saw anything on that.
I mean, Sagar's a big fan, and so he got really excited to talk about the show. I don't know.
I think I saw a news clip earlier today, I think in New Jersey, where they had actually found one. Because some of the reports, these were like 5 and 6 foot like drones.
I started to bring it up earlier because we were talking about Trump taking this penny guy around with him.
Oh yeah.
And apparently, Trump has a golf course in New Jersey.
Bedminster, yeah.
And he's supposed to be in New York today. And the assumption from a lot of people is going to go to his apartment or whatever on the golf course tonight or tomorrow, since he's in the neighborhood. Mm-hmm. And so that was one of those things. And to be fair, that's because that's one of the places they've had a sighting is nearby the golf course. It's like, well, our soon-to-be head of state is likely to be at a location where a UFO has just been sighted. And we have no answers. That seems a little bit problematic.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what to think anymore. Like, I don't know what to think on that anymore.
I'm reserving opinion. I've watched a couple things. There's one guy I like to watch. I think I showed you one of his videos. He actually works for like a drone company. But he made a good point. He was like, some of this, like, there's very grainy footage of like the few that have been seen or whatever. And I don't know what percentage, but a number of them have been like just airplanes flying. But even like some of the footage, you're literally seeing lights blinking. He was like, if this was some kind of like covert or like nefarious thing, he's like, you don't turn on like your warning lights to let people know that you're around. He's like, you don't fly around with those lights on. Like the little, blinking lights that you see planes.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things he said though is like the governor of New Jersey and their transportation department, and all that kind of stuff, have gone through all the records of both public and private airfields and stuff, and like there's a number of them that don't line up with any known flights from the FAA and stuff like that.
Right. Well, that's the thing, and a lot of people don't do it. I mean, with something like that, you're supposed to get like FAA approval or whatever whenever you fly over a certain height or certain areas, but if you're wealthy and you buy it, because these aren't fucking cheap drones. Like, these are expensive ass drones. And a lot of people don't go through it. Because I think when I was looking at like radios, there was kind of a thing where you're supposed to like register that you have like a high powered radio that has access to like certain frequencies. You're supposed to pay like a yearly subscription or whatever to have like a
permit.
Yeah, permit basically. And then, like, a lot of people don't get. So and kind of that same thought. Like, I think there's a lot of people, that bought an expensive drone and want to fly it around, and they're not going to pay that or get FAA clearance or whatever every time they go out and fly and get clearance.
Yeah, I don't know, but the number of separated sightings in a particular region seems weird.
And some have been over.
Military bases, yeah. There's a Navy. I
think that same guy mentioned there was one in Virginia like a year ago. They had like drone sightings over like a sub base or something there.
The weird one is it's a naval not naval intelligence. It's a naval air command or something like that base. Like it's a base that's primary function is naval air services. Like, and not in the sense of they fix planes, in the sense of they do all the they conglomerate like satellite and radar and this, that, and the other for tactical purposes and whatever. Like they are a naval air viewing system, for lack of a better word. And they had sightings nearby there, and they didn't know what they were. And I feel like
everyone said like there's no like radio communication that's coming from them or whatever, so they can't really be tracked.
But then how's it? But if it's a drone, how's it getting controlled? I'm
I guess it's getting a signal, but I guess it's not emitting, I guess, a signal as far as like giving off its location.
No, I mean, it's still technically.
I don't know what kind of communication a controller goes to a drone.
Right.
Because, I mean, hell, we talked about it like, during our wars in the Middle East, you had, a drone controller like out in the desert in Nevada or whatever, controlling a drone that was over in Iraq or Afghanistan or whatever.
Right. It's got some sort of satellite, something or other.
Right, there's a satellite connecting it. Like I said, but I don't know what kind of communication.
Just to back up for a second.
5G or whatever.
To be fair, this technically falls under the News of the Weird, so I don't feel bad about putting the intro to News of the Weird on.
Sure. It's a slightly less funny story.
It's interesting.
It's making a lot of people uncomfortable. Just because, like, especially the authorities can't give them any answers.
Right, and especially following last year, 2 years ago, we had all like 4 different Chinese balloon things.
Right.
And it's like, again, I think this goes back to what we were talking about on the FEMA thing maybe a month ago. I think one of the realities that is coming into focus for the masses is that what we think our government is capable of and what they actually are significantly different.
Yeah. You should know that.
I'm not saying I don't know that, but I think as a general public, I think there was a lot of faith in what our government was capable of, that it's coming into pretty clear focus that they are not capable of what we think they are.
Oh, sorry. I was thinking you were putting that in the opposite. The people don't realize that the government, military has more technology. I think they absolutely do have, but they have,
right. I think
better computer, better electronics.
Oh, I absolutely think they have all those things
that the government or that the general public aren't aware of. Sorry, I thought.
Right. No, I'm saying that I think we have been taught and brainwashed, for lack of a better word, to believe that there is a capability in place that isn't. I said, for lack of a better word, I'm not saying like fully brainwashed, but I think we've been raised on the idea
of fully brainwashed, but I did still say the word brainwash.
I said lack of a better word. I couldn't think of a better word. What's a better word for, like, it's not like some like nefarious intent, but we've been told we can handle this.
Brainwash is a nefarious intent.
That's why.
Okay, sorry. You did.
What is a non-nefarious word for brainwashing? We've been led to believe that there's a capability in place that there isn't, and it's becoming glaringly obvious where we had less examples of how obvious it is that they can't do things. Maybe that's a better way. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out how to word this.
Yeah, I guess maybe we, I would say, blindly thought that. I don't know. Maybe I thought it was kind of reminds me of like a. Kind of frustration with police departments of why they can't like solve a murder. You know, everyone's
right.
I watch Law and Order, and they catch people,
right,
within like 2 days. Yet we won't realize, that was like all of like the police departments like working on or a bunch of people all working on like one case, or
right,
like CSI, where
right,
or a false impression of like there's
right,
20 people working on this like stolen purse,
right? Or it's a true story, but it is condensed down into a palatable 1-day story. When the reality is it was months and months of work by dozens of people over different places and stuff like that all came together for the actual conclusion.
Well, I think there's just that expectation and that kind of like frustration of why we can't figure out certain things when if it's crime or this flying objects that they can't figure out, or come to a clear answer as to what these are.
Right, but again, I think
it'd be kind of weird if within 3 hours they're like, oh yeah, we know all about that. It's like, you knew about it. What the fuck are they?
We can't tell you. It's like, but I think that's the other. But I think that's the other thing too. Is I think it's a known that you're not allowed to say we know, but you don't. I think that's one of the things. I think again on the.
Well, that's when you get the whole like confirm or deny. I can neither confirm nor deny.
Right, but I'm just saying, like, I think that answer is no longer okay for the general public like it used to be. I think the we know the truth, but we can't tell you. I think that is a.
It may come out different. I don't think that's what this is.
I mean, I'm not saying it is or isn't. I'm just saying that this is an example of you're not allowed to say without giving us the evidence of anymore. We're done with that theory. We don't believe you like we used to. I think that's what's going on with some of this stuff. You're not allowed. Like I think get on the governor from New Jersey's thing. Like we don't know, and we know it's frustrating. We're sorry. Like that's what he said in one of his pressers. He's like, we don't know,
all right.
And we are working with everybody, and we're talking to everybody, and we're doing everything we can to figure this out, but we don't know. Where I think historically, the political right answer is like, we've got this under control. Don't worry about it. We're working with our partners and stuff like that, but it's nothing you got to worry about. Used to be good enough for people to say, okay, cool, and go back to their lives. Where now it's like, if you're going to lie to me, it's not going to fly. I think that's the difference in this particular story. Is I don't think they think they can get away with it like they used to.
I don't think sentiment has changed that much, but maybe I'm wrong.
Okay. It's interesting. All right, so now actual. Let's get a little bit giggly on the news of the weird, not the serious UFOs over New Jersey news of the weird. Oh, he's laughing before he even gets there. Here we go, people.
Just because you said giggly, here we go. Mysterious googly eyes go viral after appearing on public art in Oregon. Sorry, giggly googly. Just kind of made me laugh. I was like, "Hi, you just said giggly." Just so happens that
I have a word that looks a lot like that.
I hadn't read that headline yet. It was right after you said googly, and then I read this. I was like, "Oh shit, giggly,
giggly googly."
Yeah, so
okay.
There's big googly eyes.
There's a dude on the interwebs that does woodworking stuff, and he has googly eyes on a lot of his equipment. You know, like the little like stickers that have the little floating one.
That's what googly eyes are. I don't need you to explain googly eyes to me.
I might.
I'm literally just looking at a story that has a picture of googly eyes. But besides that, yes, I'm sorry.
Well, he does it. It makes me giggle when I see his googly eyes. That's all I was trying to say. God damn.
There was a funny story. I don't know if I think it was in Holland that there was like a, I don't know what you would call him, like not a rogue, but Because apparently, I don't think he made too many people mad, but in like the middle of the night, he would like pimp out people's cars with like fake body kits, but it was all like cardboard. I'll have to see if when it's over, I'll see if I can't find some pictures of it. I mean, straight up like, side flares and like, big like hood scoops and big wings, but it's all just cardboard. I don't know if it like started out as like a prank to his friends, but apparently it was coming like semi more. I've seen at least like 4 or 5 cars that this guy like cardboard pimped out.
I wish I had any sort of artistic like capability. Like I can't. Like you give me a piece of paper, I can't. Like I can write my name. That's about it.
Yeah, I can't draw.
I can't make like draw or but like I can't see a piece of cardboard and think, oh, I could cut this in this way and that way and this way and make it look like a fender.
Right.
It's just going to look like a piece of cardboard stuck to the side of a car, and I'm going to feel like an idiot. Anyway, Googly Eyes. Tell me more about it.
Oh, I guess that drone story was part of the news of the weird. Shares new details of mysterious drone flights over New Jersey.
How have you seen any updates on the fake trees thing, the art project?
Mm-mm.
It's become a stink. The local rage is re-emerged on that topic. This
fake
company,
trees?
that art installation, the Cradle of Country Music Park thing,
right?
The city of Knoxville paid like $1.2 million for it. Paid, past tense. Apparently, the city of Knoxville has posted their budget and calendar capabilities of their warming centers on the freezing nights thing, and so a bunch of people are like, "Well, maybe we didn't spend, or maybe if we weren't spending $1.2 million on this thing, it's like, well, it's already spent. Like it's already spent. You can't unspend it.
Right. Can we get a refund? We'll return that.
Right.
That art.
Can we return this thing? Which I mean, like that is a fair argument, but you can't argue against the past tense part. You know what I'm saying? Like you could say we shouldn't have done this. We would have been better served to save this for. But you can't say we're spending this money instead of, because it's already spent.
Right.
That's my only kind of grammatical breakdown of the thing. I agree. It's weird looking. It's stupid. But public art's always going to be stupid to most people.
It's very subjective.
Yeah. It's like, who cares?
I can find lots of art that I'm like, what? We spent how much on that? What the hell?
Yeah, but I mean, like to me, it's one of those, like, sometimes they hit those. Like, you got the stupid silver bean in Chicago.
Right.
Like, that thing's stupid. That's dumb.
Yeah.
But it's, like, fucking famous. And people go to Chicago to go take pictures of themselves in front of that stupid thing.
Right.
That's public art.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the city of Chicago spent more than $1 million on that fucking thing. And that random artist put it up there.
Probably made a shit ton of money off tourism, but people probably come in just to see that, not to mention some deep dish pizza.
Now, to be fair, I don't know. We'll see. The time will tell whether the argument can be made that this project brings people specifically to see it. But I don't know. But you add it to your list, like Visit Knoxville and the Chamber of Commerce and stuff like that will put it as part of their things.
Right. Come see the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame.
Right. So go to Market Square, check out all the cool stuff going on there. Go to the Hall of Fame. Go see this cool art thing that we installed. Go over here. This is what you do when you're in Knoxville, and that becomes part of that thing. And it's an undefinable thing. Not particularly different in any way, shape, or form to the argument about why the baseball stadium is worth spending the money on either.
Yeah. That's why some parks, I mean, I've been to a handful, just playing like disc golf and stuff. There's some parks that are highly visited and other parks, not so much at all. So it really becomes like a budgetary thing, that the city and county look at. It's like, that's where I kind of wondered, I don't think it's a bad idea to build a new park, especially in certain areas that, don't have one close by it. But there's always that kind of risk of spending that much money building a new park in hopes that people show up to it.
Yeah, but I mean, the more people show up, the more it costs to maintain. It's a separate subunit of issue. Like I don't know. Public spaces are important. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to advocate against public spaces, but it's a weirdism.
Right.
It's and again, you want to make Knoxville less attractive? Sell your public parks to private entities and let them either make them private parks or turn them into apartment complexes. If you want to turn down, if you don't want people moving here, don't have cool amenities. And our park system is one of our cool amenities. I'm not advocating for that. Don't get me wrong. I'm just trying to say, like I've been joking about running Max against Senator Briggs next cycle.
Right.
And one of the things I've been thinking about is like, well, there are some particular issues that I care about and why I want him to run and why I want him to go do in the state Senate. But none of those are electability issues. State pot laws being the top of my list of things. But that's not something you're going to win or lose an election on. What you're going to win or lose an election on from that district is going to be the growth management infrastructure issues, because they're dealing with a ton of growth up there. Hallsdale Powell, those kind of things. And it's like, I don't know, like, if I'm going to run a candidate, if I'm going to put my Eric Whiter hat on and be like, what do I need to do to get my guy to win? I need to figure out the issue that animates that district. And I think the issue that animates that district is going to be growth, because they're getting fucking pounded with it. And the infrastructure can't handle it, and this, that, and the other. And it's like, well, how do I make stances on the issue for my candidate to make that sellable? Do I make the stances of, I'm going to do everything in my power to stop more people from coming to our neighborhoods? Do I make it, we're going to make it in a way that as people come in here, we can get the infrastructure up to date and surpass our infrastructure needs so that the traffic doesn't become an issue as these people come? I don't know. But like, I've been thinking about that a lot on trying to figure out how would you run a candidate and what issues actually matter to people. And I think growth is probably the number one issue, but I don't know how to set the narrative for that.
It's an issue. I don't know if you could make a campaign out of it. There's some campaigns that run on, one or two issues, but
I think it's the most universal for the district. I think that is the number one issue for the district, but I don't know where the district lies on what they want out of that situation. Because the business community, anybody that's in business wants that growth.
Right.
But the residents don't. And so how do you manage that middle ground to make it attractive for people to vote for you?
That pisses off both sides the least. Is all you really have to do. Well, that's all you really can do.
Well, it depends.
It's all you can hopefully do.
Well, I think the right answer is who's funding you. Are you getting more energy and effort from individuals or the business community? Because there's more individuals than there are businesses and people in the business side of things that are going to get you votes. But there's more
business may have more money.
They're going to have more money to help you spend to get the word out of what you're trying to do.
Right.
So I don't know. Like, it's an interesting little game. I really would like to talk to Eric.
Should I talk to 10 businesses to get enough money for my campaign, or should I try to talk to 1,000 constituents to try to get $10 a piece from them or whatever?
Well, it's not even necessarily the money side of it. It's that I can spin the issue. The more money I have, the more I can spin the issue to the public for the public conversation. But if I only have a limited amount of funds, I have to have a very specific issue set. I can't. It has to be very black and white. I cannot have any nuance to it because I don't have time to get the nuance part out to the public because I don't have the money to show it to them. So I don't know. It's interesting. I'm trying to think about it. I really want to figure out. He's not going to do it. I'm going to try to get him to do it. I'm not running. I'm not running for state senate. I promise you that. Because Max he's got some of the fun intangibles. He's a vet. He's a vet. That's really about it. He's not super old.
Business owner.
He's a small business owner. He's a longtime resident here. He wasn't born and raised here, but he's a longtime resident in Knoxville. He's got a lot of good things going for him. He's super personable. He's fun to chat with. You could take a 5-minute conversation with the guy, and it's just you're going to leave going like, yeah, okay. He's not super offensive in the short term. He can be. I don't know. I got to talk him into doing it. I would have to manage his wife. That'd be the hard part.
But he hasn't given you a hard no when you proposed.
Oh, he's giving me hard no's, but that doesn't mean anything.
That's true.
I've got to package it to him that it's a good idea for him. That's a subset of things. Anyway, one more weird since we barely touched that one.
I think it's one we usually talked about, but every year when it comes up, let me see if there's a different one here.
Naked bike race?
No, it's not that time of year.
A naked bike race in Cleveland in December would be fun. Pittsburgh, Cleveland.
Let's see here. Here's just a weird title. I want to go into the story. A New Zealander studied for a year to win the Spanish World Scrabble title. He doesn't speak Spanish.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, we have people that win the spelling bee that barely speak English. And that's probably harder.
Yeah, I don't know how they do that. Let's see here. No, I think we've talked about it there. Maybe I've just heard the story before. We've got a UK spy agency releases annual Christmas card puzzle to uncover future code breakers. I've heard of them doing that.
Yeah,
I think that's something they do like every Christmas, like they put it out in the papers or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know Times. I don't know if we've talked about it on the show or not, but I do recall this story or a version of the story in the past.
Yeah, let's see. What does a spy agency give for Christmas? How about a riddle wrapped in an enigma inside a mystery?
We had a Crown Royal has changed their bottle. Speaking of the Brits,
is that a British thing?
It's Canadian.
Oh, okay, I was about to say. Yeah.
They've changed their bottle to be more of a to represent the new monarch. Because the totality of the history of Crown Royal has existed only in Queen Elizabeth's reign. Huh. And so they have their new king bottle. It's taller and skinnier.
They should add do they have an E at the end of Royal? Is it Crown Royale?
Oh. It's Canadian whiskey. But
blended whiskey.
I thought it was interesting. I don't know. It's kind of like I don't know for a fact. I haven't seen it from Crown Royal's like PR department or anything, but I can't imagine why else they would change their bottle.
I mean, it's not uncommon for a company to rebrand if they haven't changed anything in forever. Sometimes it just drives a new thing, like check out the all new bottle.
Jack Daniel's hasn't not done that square bottle for the history of time. That's always done that square bottle. Right. That is part of Jack Daniel's.
Okay, so they haven't changed the bottle, but they've changed many other things, coming out with new other brands.
Right, sub-product, that's a different thing. But this is Crown Royal changing their bottle, which is a very signature bottle that they've had for, I don't know, ever.
I mean, this could just be a special edition. Is this a permanent change?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a new bottle. It's a new bottle, full stop. All right, last call, my friend. You got anything else? See, this is where you come in and say, oh, yeah, we didn't talk about the UFOs. But now we have.
We always end with News of the Weird. I was trying to bring that in before the News of the Weird, because it is a weird story. But.
Oh, double punch the button. My bad, people. All right, almost agreement at gmail.com. We did the things. I guess next week's episode will be our Christmas. It'll be our pre-Christmas show. Maybe we get some eggnog in here and get real saucy. Almost agreement at gmail.com, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Go to the website, almostagreement.com. Holaroo 25 is coming up real soon, April 12th. 25 sign-ups for vendors and derby drivers and all the other stuff we got going on will be coming out on this website soon as well, holaroo.co. Go on now and you can sign up for our newsletter so that we can send you updates as soon as they arrive. Go to your favorite podcast provider. We are available there. Tell your friends about us. Figure out how you do it. Shout out to Todd and Matt Cheers since they both were on the episode tonight, even though they didn't know it. We'll be back next week. We'll be back next week to do what we do, and we appreciate you for listening. Talk to you all soon. Bye.